No Jumper, coolest podcast in the world. And today I'm sitting down with the godfather of hip hop content creation on the internet, on YouTube at the very least. DJ Vlad is in the building.
Thank you.
How you feeling?
I'm good. I'm good. Back on here again.
Yeah, we back.
We back.
I have a motto that you probably don't know about, and you're probably going to feel like this is kind of glazing-ish, but many times I've found myself returning to this motto. What would Vlad do?
Really?
I literally think that quite a bit because I feel like so many things that I have maybe, bad decisions I've made, business decisions that haven't necessarily worked out, probably could have been avoided if I had just paid a little bit closer attention to the way that you've run your business over the years. So
really?
Frequently I have that train of thought.
What's been an example of this?
I did buy this extremely huge building. In retrospect, probably not the best idea. We're kind of working on potentially offloading it. And when I think about Vlad, I'm like, Vlad is somebody that has managed to keep his overhead extremely low over the years. And I know that we've had that conversation about your New York space that I feel like that maybe didn't work out necessarily the way you wanted it to.
Yeah, but it's got a lease end date.
Okay.
At which point I'll be done with it.
And that is better than buying it, which is what we did. But a lot of different stuff like that. I feel like so often I just kind of end up being like, okay, Vlad figured out the best route for this business.
Yeah, I mean, you didn't run the whole building purchase idea by me.
No. What would you have said?
I would have said probably not.
I think with media companies in particular, it's on you to keep the expenses low. And I think that in particular during the pandemic, a lot of us kind of had inflated views of what this business was going to be or was going to turn into.
Well, yeah, I think we were making the most amount of money we ever made during that time. That's when I bought my house. And I was able to just buy it in cash.
Right.
So, yeah, we were making a lot of money and we were spending it in various ways. And I bought a house, you bought a building, probably went on expensive trips and,
definitely had an expensive month-long honeymoon in Italy and France and whatnot.
But man, you live and learn. And at the end of the day, you have an asset that's worth something. So when you sell it, maybe you'll take a loss, but it's not going to be a total loss.
No. And I mean,
partial loss.
You use the space for 3 years and then you think about what a comparable space would have cost you over the course of 3 years. It's like, oh, well, I could take a significant loss on the building and it would still be a relatively sane business decision. But one of the things that I know you're excited about that you've been pushing, and just to put it out there, this is what you did with this masterclass is something that I previously told the audience that I was going to do, and then due to laziness and just being focused on other things, never actually did it. Who knows? Maybe I'll end up doing something similar eventually. But give us the breakdown on what the masterclass is all about.
So the Vlad TV YouTube Masterclass is part of the membership on our YouTube channel.
Right.
Before that, for the last about 3 years or so, we had like the $5 membership, which allows you to get the full interview, usually on the first day, if not on the first day, in the first few days, before it's publicly released, which sometimes takes a month or two. So this is a different tier of that. And for $100 a month, it's a set of exclusive classes that break down everything that I've learned in terms of building a successful YouTube channel. And over the years, I think in my promo, I said I made over like $30 million, over the course of my YouTube career, which started in 2008. So there's different classes, and it's completely exclusive to this, where the first class is the breakdown of what you should focus on, what you should avoid, and kind of the basic elements that Vlad TV used in the very beginning that we still use today in building the channel and potentially not going in the wrong direction and wasting your time. There's a whole video about how to book celebrity guests, all the various ways and all the pitfalls and some of the mistakes that we made along the way. There's an episode about the equipment. So there's a $100 setup, which you could do with a cell phone and a digital recorder and a small light. And then there is like the $40,000 setup that's in our New York studio. And it breaks it all down. It shows it for the first time, shows the software that we use, the lighting, the actual cameras and why we use them and so forth. And, that's actually the most popular video right now.
Really? Because that is one of the number one questions that I get is what kind of mics should I buy?
What kind of mics?
And I do remember that being probably the hardest thing for me to wrap my head around early on was like, oh, I'm going to have to figure out what mics to buy. And I remember just going to YouTube and typing mics for podcasting,
Right.
and just watching probably 5 videos about it. And by the time I got done watching, videos for an hour, I felt like I had a pretty good idea of what to order, and that took care of it. But I mean, that is a little bit of a learning curve. Like by doing that, you have to be able to make some decisions and whatnot. So I feel like that everybody can kind of imagine themselves talking on camera, but the computer setup, the camera setup, the mics, etc. That's definitely a thing that gives people trouble.
Yeah, and there's a whole episode about how money is made on YouTube. So we actually give for the first time, I actually talk about the money aspect of it. So there's a breakdown on how one particular interview made over $50,000 and why it made that much money and how it can be duplicated. And this is not going to be every video, but this is how you can kind of gear towards videos making more as opposed to less. I just filmed a new episode for this next month, which is just completely focused on demonetized videos. And it kind of showed how, like, for example, I did like the side-by-side comparison where there's an interview I did with Sarah J, the porn star.
Right.
Like, way back in the day. This is like one of the most viewed videos on our site. It's at almost like 7 million views.
Wow, okay.
And in the past year alone, it got 100,000 views just passively.
Yeah.
This is like a 10-year-old video.
Which people don't maybe wrap their heads around that, but that's a very important thing to a business like ours, that you create this catalog of videos and maybe 90% of the videos after the first year are kind of making a minimal amount, but you have some that just really thrive in the algorithm and that can continue to make money over the years.
Right. But the video talks about Sarah J's perfect penis size in terms of the men she wants, right? And we try to title it the best we could, but ultimately the video got demonetized. And with 100,000 views, how much money do you think this video made?
If it's demonetized, almost nothing. $20, $100, I don't know.
Less than $4.
Yeah, okay, there you go. Yeah.
Less than $4. Then I showed another video, like for example with Mano that we just did, that earned 100,000 views, and that made like $400 something, right? So you think about more than a 99% decline when something is demonetized.
Yes, very important.
So we talk about the various ways we try to keep videos monetized, and there's also at the very end, there's actually like a secret like method that YouTube doesn't really tell you about,
where you can go do the second review and everything.
Yeah,
you've told me about that. I haven't actually attempted it on my own, but when you say that that's involved in the class, I'm like, oh, well, that's a situation where it would definitely be worth it for me to sign up.
So it's like people are like, oh, it's $100, but it's like, if I had known about the second review, I probably would have made an extra $1 million over the course of my YouTube career. Like, it's that important. Like, I think about how many videos got millions of views and were demonetized and made 99% less than what they were supposed to make.
But when you go in, you basically have to like cut out chunks of the video to get it monetized for the most part, right?
Sometimes yes, sometimes no. It's a touch and go kind of thing. There's really, because people say, well, if there's swearing in it, it'll get demonetized. But we have thousands of videos with swearing in it that's fully monetized.
And you don't edit the swearing out, which I find very strange because we have to do a lot of that.
Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't.
Okay.
Like, we only started to do it if like every video in a particular like interview starts getting flagged. Like with Tony Yayo, it was like everything was getting flagged. So we started just cutting out swear words.
To be fair, he's somebody, and a lot of times this is what it does. It is if you say the N word 8 times in a row, or if you say the F word 10 times in the course of a minute, that's what's going to get it. It's not.
What it is?
I think so. It's when it's a flurry of profanity, because typically I've just had a lot of people point that out. Like, oh, I had to go into this video and there's this one clip where he says the N word 8 times in a row, and that just nails it. So yeah, I mean, that's something that I should be doing, but it also kind of pains me to imagine going back to some of my classic interviews, something like the XXXTentacion interview, which over the years has been monetized, demonetized, monetized. Like, it just
it goes up and down.
It just comes and goes. And right now it's demonetized. But there was a long time where that thing was like literally making 10 grand a year still after all these years.
Yeah.
Now it's back down to like maybe $100, a couple $100 a year or whatever. If I could fix that, it would be glorious. But it would, if it involves like chopping out a part of an interview that was very important to me, that might be a difficult decision.
Well, that's the balancing act.
Yeah.
Do you want to butcher the video and make money, or leave it as is and not make money? But by butchering it, you can take away from what makes it what it is. So it's one of those things.
Yeah, no, definitely. Well, that alone right there, I'm gonna have to sign up for that.
Yeah, we'll go to youtube.com/VladTV/join and choose the YouTube Masterclass option. And I'll also start going live. So, for example, this Saturday I'm going live just for the Masterclass tier, and people actually be able to jump on and ask me specific questions. And I'm actually going to stay on until every person's question is answered.
That's
one-on-one.
Yeah,
and that'll be content just for that channel. And then along with the actual classes, every month we're going to release a exclusive interview of a successful YouTuber with a breakdown about how they actually did it. So this first month was academics. He broke down his channel and how he's made, like what his biggest interview actually made and why it made that, and kind of how he built it all up. But we got a lot of stuff. So, like, for example, Trench's News.
Yep.
He breaks down how he makes over 100,000 a year and doesn't even show his face. Think about that.
Yeah.
Turning a negative into a positive. Everyone started saying that he cooperated, whatever, so he couldn't show his face. And then not showing his face, he now is making 6 figures out of his house.
Right.
It's pretty amazing if you ask me.
No, yeah, it's very impressive.
Yeah.
Especially when you see people like, you look at us, it's kind of like we've been in business for a while. We're used to the idea, but I still am kind of in love with that story of somebody going from having to work a shitty job full time or having to do something that they don't like doing with their time, and then being able to replace that with something that makes them, that they're passionate about, that they've got a real fan base for and everything.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's an episode with Terrence Gangster Williams, which we may even release next. But you gotta understand, he did 27 years for 40 murders.
Yeah.
Right. So he gets out and he's on probation, I believe. And he's working at Tyson Chicken Plant in Dallas, Texas, hosing down dead chickens and blood and whatever else. But it's cool. It's like, all right, he's working his job.
Anything's better than sitting in prison,
in a jail cell, right? But then we do our first interview, and the interview takes off. So he says, hey, let me try it myself. So he starts doing, YouTube videos in his apartment. After about a year, he's making 6 digits. He goes to his parole officer, shows him the bank statements, that he's like, yep, go ahead and quit. Go ahead and quit your chicken job.
That's dope.
And then now he actually sent me, and we're going to include this, he sent me a piece of paper. He's made over 300,000 off YouTube, just sitting in front of a computer talking. And this is not, I mean, yes, he's got a famous brother, but lots of people have famous siblings. Like, he actually, from the very bottom, built up a 6-digit a year YouTube business, being a convicted felon and having a limited amount of jobs that he could get.
Exactly, yeah.
So imagine not having to take these, these jobs that most of the rest of society doesn't want to do, and being able to be your own boss, doing content that you like to make anyways.
For sure.
Like, that to me is dope. And that is sort of the purpose of the Vlad TV YouTube Masterclass, is to show people that they could do it too.
100%. My last question about that is, how heartened are you by the signups? Is it something that you are finding a lot of interest in, or is it a little bit slow?
It's a little bit slow.
Okay.
But that's expected because it's $100 sell.
Yeah.
Right? So we're like in the double digits right now.
Okay.
I'm not going to lie and say we're, but this, I mean, you got to think these are $100 signups.
Yeah.
Right? So even 100 signups is significant.
Yeah.
You're talking about, that's 10,000 a month before YouTube takes its cut. So I understand that every sign up you have to really fight for. And then you got to keep them coming back. So yeah, we're about, and this is why I'm saying, like, right now in the early stages, when I'm going on live, I'll be able to answer everyone's questions one-on-one.
Yeah.
So you got and I think what makes this different is that people are like, oh, well, you can get this free on the internet. You can get, there's lots of YouTube channels where they talk about the same thing or something similar for free. Well, this is not coming from very successful YouTubers.
Yeah.
This is coming from a guy that's got 50,000 followers and is scraping by.
And the whole thing about it to me is, it's like, you need to invest in yourself if you want to be successful in anything.
Yeah.
So could you cobble together probably a lot of the information from your class if you were to just really pry through a million different interviews and do all the Googling, etc.? Sure, maybe. But like, for me, I've always felt like, if I've got some skin in the game, I'm a lot more likely to take it serious, in regards to, like, if I want to get in shape, when I got a personal trainer, I felt like that was the number one thing that would give me accountability in terms of getting in shape. I'm spending actual money on this. That's going to keep me from just being a fat ass and just letting it go, you know? So I feel like $100 a month, yes, it sounds a little bit prohibitive, but realistically, you know, you're spending $200 on sneakers and shit. So I feel like that's, if somebody does that, they're definitely, putting themselves in a position to succeed. I think when I thought about it, I thought long and hard about it, and I think $100 was kind of what I ended up at as being like an ideal price point.
Well, I mean, we want people that really are serious about it, right? I mean, if you put in $100 and there's something that saves you $1,000 a month,
right,
for the next 5 years,
easy.
Like, and this is why I focus on the money aspect of it. It's not just like believe in yourself, find something that you really love. Like, it's not a bunch of that bullshit. It's like, yo, like, here's actually how you salvage. This is how you could go from $1,000 to a video to $1 to the same video, and this is what you have to focus on if you're turning this into a business. Because look, you know, and I've seen people like, you know, you have like IG models and stuff like that go on YouTube, but all their stuff gets demonetized. Sometimes it's not even, they don't even understand why.
Yeah.
But it's easy to get discouraged and say, okay, forget it. This is not for me. I'll go back to OnlyFans. But, you know, but there is a real business there that they just haven't figured out how to use yet.
Definitely. I mean, I feel like one of my chief complaints about so many of the people that me and you have influenced over the years in terms of content creation is that so many of them seem like they come to the conclusion that the best way to make money on YouTube is to just go live for hours and hours and hours at a time. And there's something to it because you can get donations from people, you do make a little bit of money, etc. But when I look at my content and I look at your content and why we've been successful, I think so much of it comes down to the fact that when we create shit, it's very focused. It's like if you see a 5-minute clip on Vlad, everybody knows that you're not having your time wasted. Vlad is doing the best job that he can to get to the thing that it says in the title. And that's just one thing that I find kind of disheartening when I look at other people in the space, or I'm just like, you guys are just bullshitting on live all day. Like you got nothing to do. And I feel like that to me says that you haven't really taken in the lessons of dealing with people like me or you or Ack, where everything we put out feels like it has purpose and meaning, and we're trying to build and cultivate a fan base by being respectful of their time and their interests.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you look at 2008 Vlad TV and 2025 Vlad TV, it's pretty similar. We're interviewing the same types of people. We're asking the same types of questions. We're chopping it up the same type of way. We're still dropping daily content. We're still pushing the envelope and, you know, not doing the real just foofy type interviews. And yeah, I mean, over time, we've done different types of people. Now we do more athletes and we do more gangsters and stuff like that. But overall, it's very similar.
Because that's one thing I noticed with Vlad TV is that on one hand, it feels like you guys have gone in a little bit more of a highbrow direction where you have the Alan Dershowitzes and you get, you know, classic athletes and stuff like that. Obviously, the sort of real world crime stuff, like stuff that aimed at a bit of a more adult audience. But at the same time, I also see you kind of in some ways acknowledging, I think, that so much of what's popular on the internet really is these sort of like low level personalities that are like damn near like fresh up off the block. When I see you interviewing an FBG Buddha, I'm like, oh, I thought that Vlad wouldn't have necessarily been interested in interviewing somebody like him. But I feel like you've kind of realized to a certain extent that if you want to continue to cover hip hop, that you kind of need to be willing to sort of lower your standards in a way and be willing to deal with people that are not necessarily the big names, which is something that you've been doing for a long time. Obviously, you've always known that you could get the best version of the story through the person that was near the story, but isn't necessarily the superstar.
Yeah.
But what's your perspective on doing sort of like smaller name guests and whatnot?
I mean, our biggest interviews came from these names that most people don't know. Like Michael Franzese wasn't all that known when I interviewed him. Yeah, I think he had maybe done Patrick Bet David before, but that was it. I don't think he did any other interviews. Now he has like a really known podcast, and he does like Andrew Tate and Mike Tyson and all these people. But back then, yeah,
right,
he was just a mob guy that a couple people had heard of. Mob James, his first real interview, nobody's heard of Mob James. That like 5 million views and so forth. So we always figured that like if you just get a really amazing story, doesn't matter who it comes from, but the story has to be amazing. Now you can get a big name and have a really lame interview, and it won't really react. You know what I'm saying? Like, I remember my last Rich the Kid interview. He's just very low energy, wore a mask the whole time, and it was like he has a real career, and there are really interesting things about what he's done, but he's presenting it in such a low energy, monotone kind of I don't really want to be here kind of my manager made me come kind of manner,
right, which is the worst.
It's not going to do well. Doesn't matter. And this is a guy who has songs with Kendrick Lamar and pretty much everybody.
And he's somebody who I feel like when I look at his interviews, because Academics had him on recently, and I think after 24 hours I went to look at it and it had like 10,000 views. And I was just thinking, like, Rich the Kid is way too well known to be getting 10,000 views in 24 hours on an interview. But I feel like through doing a lot of shitty podcast appearances, he kind of lowered the level of interest where people are expecting something that's not terribly enjoyable, because he had that bad interview on yours. His original No Jumper interview was objectively pretty bad. I think Academic's first interview that he ever did when he first started doing podcasts.
He walked out, right?
Yeah, that was a Rich the Kid one. I think that was kind of not that thrilling to the audience. I mean, a big thing in hip hop is just that there was a time where it felt like the audience was not as astute. But now, man, like they know what they want. They know what they're interested in. There's a flood of content for them to pick from at any given time. And if you're going to put somebody on your platform, it's got to actually be interesting. It has to be packaged in a way where they're going to want to see it. The hip hop audience, you got to give them credit. They're not fucking around. They want to see stuff that's actually interesting. And if they get the hint that it's not, they're going to tune out quickly.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, look, everyone's doing podcasts now.
Yes.
Like Travis Kelce, doesn't he have a podcast?
Yes, which is so crazy to think that he's married to the most famous woman in the world, or not married, but dating. And he's out here just doing a podcast. I would assume somebody on her team maybe checks out the episodes before they come out, or at least he's very aware of what he's saying on there. But yeah, I mean, he's got a podcast. And even like that's the sports world, but they have the same problem that we kind of have in hip hop, which is like me and you are sort of random participants in the culture, but now you can go watch podcasts from people who are like the biggest names in the culture, the Camerons and whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, Paul George, who's actively one of the big NBA players, had a podcast. So, it's like you see these rappers like Schoolboy Q who are doing the promo run, and they go do Paul George. They don't do Vlad TV or No Jumper, because we have to compete against Paul George. I mean, Q is probably a fan of this guy on the court. So yeah, he's okay, yeah, sure, I'll go chop it up with him. That sounds like fun. That doesn't sound like work, you know? So it's like we have to compete against that. And
the Shannon Sharps of the world.
The Shannon Sharps of the world. Everyone has a podcast now, and that's cool. I'm not mad at that, but I have to understand that, but with us, there's always been the gatekeepers and the blocking and everything else like that. Like, I don't remember the last time I've worked with a record label to book one of their artists. I think we're generally disliked by the PR departments and record labels. I had like the famous back and forth with the Warner Brothers PR person at one point. So I've always felt like I had to figure out different ways to get the views and the audience. And this is why the regular guest became a thing. This is why the gangster episodes became a thing. I was doing porn stars back in the day. Like, it was like, how do I get the views without having to go through the people? Because a lot of times, like, you talk to people like Moray, like who I just interviewed, right? And I just DM'd him and he hit me back. And I remember I told him, like, when he was first buzzing, we reached out and we were turned down by his management. And he's like, I was never even told about it. I would have totally did it. Like, I've been a huge Vlad TV fan since I was a kid. I would have totally did it. But I was never told.
Yeah.
Same thing with Sweetie. I mean, like, we were blocked by Warner Brothers. I remember I made a fuss on Twitter, and she responded. She was like, I was never told about doing your interview. I'm a fan. I was just watching your Snoop video. She like posted from her phone. Like, and this is the type of bullshit I got to deal with.
Yeah. No, facts. But I think part of it too is that some artists look at us as a bit of a liability because they consider us to be too well researched, too, knowledgeable about what they might have going on. And then there are things that stem from that. Whereas, like, if they go on Shannon Sharp, they know I don't want to say it's going to be a total softball interview, but a lot of the stuff, Shannon Sharp doesn't know who your ops are. Realistically, Vlad and Adam are going to do enough research that we figure out who you beef with. And if we don't talk about it, it's because we artfully decided not to talk about it. And for a lot of these dudes, they don't really want to do an interview that's going to have that level of introspection into their lives and careers. And it kind of can fuck up relationships too. I interviewed Lil Durk in 2018. Me and you both have like done content with him, had a cool relationship, and then it fell apart at a certain point.
But why did your relationship fall apart?
I feel like we just didn't talk after we did the interview in 2018. Keep in mind, his career was not necessarily in like the hottest place at that time. And then I feel like we just interviewed a bunch of people who either were his direct ops or just maybe had things to say about him that weren't the best, doing the weekly podcast where we just talk about all the different drama and everything that people have going on. I feel like he probably at a certain point began to feel like, why would I go on this podcast if they're interviewing people that I specifically don't get along with, and not just big names that he doesn't get along with, but just whoever. Like, we've done such deep content into Chicago that we're interviewing people that realistically probably don't have a ton going for them aside from, beefing with bigger name rappers in Chicago. And I feel like that can kind of close doors on you. But I guess my overall question is, when you look at the position that Durk is in now, I feel like me and you are both people that had cool relationships with him, and then the relationship fell apart over things that we consider kind of petty. And especially when I look at why you guys fell apart, which for the audience, if you don't know, Vlad accidentally included a clip of Durk talking about the fact that he was about to have a baby in an episode. He told you to edit it out. You forgot to edit it out, or forgot to tell your editor to edit. Your editor forgot to take it out.
Forgot to edit it out. Yeah,
right.
We told him to edit out, and then they asked. We edited out part of it, but they wanted more edited out.
Right. Oh, okay.
And by the time we got to the rest of it, they felt it took us too long. But that to me was sort of silly because it's like, we've been around each other. We've had conversations off camera. Like, I have no bad intentions for you.
Right. And to me, that's just some big-headed
superstar
rapper shit. Yeah. I'm going to beef with you for 10 years over the fact that your editor forgot to take out an extra 15 seconds of the interview or whatever.
And it was about an upcoming baby. It wasn't even about like, oh, yeah, I'm dissing my op's dead grandmother. Like, and I really needed it out.
Right. It's not life or death.
Whatever. Yeah. It's like, all right, the baby announcement came a little too soon, but that's not what we're even known for. We're not like Shade Room that's doing, like, our audience doesn't care about baby now.
Yeah, our audience, yeah, exactly.
Really does not
that's not really our thing anyway. Yeah, that's not the thing that's going to go viral.
But on 2 different songs, he's like, Vlad.
Yeah.
Just like, really, on 2 album songs, you got to say Vlad over that? Like, come on, man. Like you're letting your fame kind of cloud your judgment. Like, I'm not your op. I've never said anything about you at all derogatory ever.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Even with the Vlads, I still didn't say it. You would think at one point you'd be like, actually, no, this guy's cool. This guy was actually looking out for me when no one else was.
Right.
Was giving me a platform when I couldn't get a play. He used to tweet me so I would make articles on his tweets.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? Like, to go from that to Vlad on 2 songs, like, I'm not even talking about freestyles, like actual album songs.
Yeah.
It was kind of just like, all right, whatever.
Yeah, and it's just kind of bizarre to see that, because it's like there's a time in your career where you're not doing so hot and you want to do interviews, you want to get blog posts, you want to get content, and then all of a sudden you feel like you're on top of the world, and so you feel like you don't need anybody. You have your pick of who you want to do interviews with. Cool, I totally get it. But now you're in a situation that is not so admirable, that I'm sure you're not so terribly happy with. But do you feel like people have kind of accused you of this, of being a little bit too gleeful, or at least not upset about discussing Durk's current predicament?
Well, but that's not about Durk saying Vlad.
That's just his behavior in general. You're kind of disappointed by some of the decisions he made.
I just felt that once I saw the story of Quando Rondo's cousin getting killed and his alleged involvement in it, I was just disgusted by it. It's not, oh, I'm so glad he's in jail, I hope he's there forever. No, I don't wish that. Like, at the end of the day, if he gets out tomorrow, that'd be fine. And in fact, if they prove that he had nothing to do with it, then I'll say, okay, well, my bad.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, what the feds are alleging, and with someone who I'm cool with, I've always had a good relationship with Quando. I actually went down to Savannah, interviewed him in person. This is not our first interview. We talked about sort of just the overall situation with Quando being the victim in this whole situation, and to have a murder occur right in front of him, where this is his actual cousin and the trauma involved in it, like that. Why do people think that's a strange reaction? I understand you like his music, and I know that clouds a lot of people's judgment. It's like, I like his music, so it's okay that he kills people associated with a rapper I don't like. But that's not really how you're supposed to be as a human being. Right? Like, if you really paid a group of men to go kill somebody, and in the process they kill the wrong person, that's not celebrated. You see what I'm saying? Right. I'm not being gleeful. I'm just saying, if he's involved in that, that's disgusting behavior, and it shouldn't be allowed in society. You shouldn't be allowed, just because you have a bunch of money and a bunch of crazy people around you that are willing to throw away their lives, to go kill people that you have a problem with. And at one point, what I said was, in these interviews was, when does Lil Durk grow up and say, King Von was my friend, was he signed to OTF? There was some sort of business, something going on.
Everybody thought that he was signed to Durk. In his passing, multiple people have reported on the fact that he basically never signed the paperwork. There was people acknowledging that maybe there was a little bit of tension between Durk and Vaughn about not signing the paperwork. People say that Durk was definitely planning, or Vaughn was planning on taking care of Durk, one way or another, like that he was going to make it make sense to him with money and everything. But word on the streets is that he never actually signed the deal to him.
So whether you signed or not, clearly this this business relationship was mutually beneficial to everyone. Durk was a big rapper, and he was kind of co-signing, Vaughn, and Vaughn was the hottest gangster rapper at the time, and Durk was feeding off of that as well. You see what I'm saying? I know they had some sort of situation where like a shooting occurred or something. I understand this was your friend, this was somebody you're doing business with, but at one point, like, the people around you, like, you have the crazy friend, and if he ends up dying doing something crazy, you go like, well, it's sad that he died, but I'm not really that surprised. Right?
I guess, like, for me and you as outsiders on this whole kind of thing, given that, when me and you have beef with the people, we don't, retaliate with violence.
No.
But it feels like there's a lot of people that I'm cool with people on both sides of a conflict. And I know that murders or violence have taken place on both sides of it. And I just kind of choose to put my hands up and say, like, listen, I'm not going to really cast judgment on you guys. I remember I had like a fairly profound moment when I went to Draco's funeral. It's like the saddest thing in the world. And I just found myself so overcome with just that feeling of like, this is the worst thing I could ever imagine, that I'm sitting in this room with all these loved ones who are crying because people hated him so much that they chose to take him out of this world. And then I had to check myself, because in large part, the reason why Draco got killed was because of his alleged involvement, or at least the fact that he was there when another guy got killed. And that really was like the thing that started this whole tit for tat that basically made people want to kill him. And I have no idea still to this day, like, what Draco's actual involvement was in the passing of Red Bull at the pajama party that night.
You don't think it was over the Ingleweird song?
That all stemmed from this situation, So like that basically was the original event that sort of sparked up the war between a lot of Bloods in LA and Draco and whatever. And I don't know exactly what played out at the music festival when he lost his life, etc. But I also just like, I can't really bring myself to say, you know what? Fuck this side. I don't with them because they did something to my friend, knowing that in many ways this was a back and forth and that disrespect was done from both sides and violent acts were done from both sides. And, you know, it's like for me, I just kind of have to, same thing with all these BDs and GDs. It's like, you know, I can interview them and have conversations with them about stuff, but I just choose to be Switzerland and just stay out of, you know, picking a dog in the fight.
Yeah, I mean, look, Durk knew who Von was. Von clearly bragged about all the violence that he was involved with, whether he was caught or not. So you know who you're dealing with. He went and initiated a physical attack against someone who really didn't even really do anything. And in the process, he underestimated the level of violence that they were going to retaliate with.
Right.
He just thought it was going to be a fist fight. Didn't end up being a fist fight. But whose fault was it? Who ultimately, you know, Lil Tim walked away from it as stand your ground.
Yeah.
The legal system has told everyone that this was a justifiable self-defense situation. But Durk allegedly did not want to accept that.
Yeah.
He wanted to take it one step further and put his own freedom and the freedom of these 5 other guys involved in this insanity on the line. So, I don't know, so he could feel better about himself, that he somehow, you know, slid for Von. I mean, it's just, like I said, there's no glee in it, but it's just like, let's all be adults at one point. Like, this is not behavior that society could really tolerate. You can't just sit there and put hits on people in retaliation. You know, like, you just can't do that. You can't have a society like that.
Yeah.
You can't.
You can't.
You cannot. You can't.
Certainly,
have
it's
people running
unsustainable.
around that
Yeah.
are doing this and getting away with it.
And I mean, the remnants of this kind of behavior, we see it all the time. Where, FBG Duck got killed, and
that was sad. 5
O Block members went down for it. 6, I think, actually.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, Durk gets his revenge, if it happened, as they say, gets his revenge on Quando Rondo's friend. They probably wanted Quando, but they didn't get him. They got somebody else. And it's like, you know, probably 5 or 6 or however many OTF members are going to go down for that. It's just like this
rinse and repeat.
Very rarely works out in a way that is beneficial.
Not when it comes to high profile shit.
Yeah,
you can kill some homeless guy in an alley, and if there's no cameras, you might get away.
But you look at the Draco thing. I mean, it seems like the guys who did that are going to skate forever.
Well, but that was a very unique situation.
Very, you know.
That was in the back of a backstage at a concert with literally hundreds of people around. It's hard to figure out who did what. It's a huge scuffle, and it was a brawl.
There's
right?
Dozens and dozens and dozens, maybe like 100 people conspiring, really. And the fact that none of them have managed to yap to the police or whatever, I do believe that as time goes by, that we'll probably see a day in which it's documented 100%. How all that went down.
Someone's going to need to get out of jail free card.
Yeah.
Someone's going to get caught up beating up their girlfriend.
Yeah.
And, you know, they're going to have priors. The police are going to be like, well, you know, you're facing 20 years. They're going to say, well, you know something? I got something for you. Remember that rapper Draco who got killed back in, you know, 2000?
Might have already happened, and they might just be sitting on it and trying to build the case, since these things don't happen overnight.
Too many people were involved, and I think that if you do that, it's not your first time at the rodeo.
Yeah,
you've been involved in this type of bullshit, and you've probably been caught. You're probably in the system already.
Yeah,
and you know, I just don't feel people who stab someone to death go on and go back to a corporate job and live a quiet life. And, you know, never get in trouble again. You know, I feel like
probably some veteran gangbangers already.
Yeah, it's like if you stab someone to death, you're probably going to be going through other legal challenges through the course of your life. And like I said, you might want to get that, you know, the get out of jail free card is always there.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sure a group of people after this happened got together and had a conversation about it.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's not like it just came together. They might have been smart enough to not do it in their group chats, but for sure they were standing around talking about how that night was going to go down.
Well, man, listen, you'd be, I remember Quincy Jones' son QD3 told me something interesting once. He said that it's always stuck with me. He said it's a lot easier to push in a positive direction than a negative one. It's just easier in life, no matter what it is. If you're trying to do something good, if you're trying to build a real business, you pay people on time, you have a product you believe in, and so forth. It's easier to keep motivating yourself day after day to keep doing this and see this light at the end of the tunnel. But if your job consists of trying to tear somebody down,
yeah,
and you're trying to hide the fact that you're doing it, and like you're doing this, you're paranoid of being able, someone finding out that you're doing this. You're constantly trying to hide your actions, and you're scared everyone's spying on you. Like that's hard. That's a hard way to function.
Yeah,
that's a hard way to wake up every day and get through that day.
Definitely.
Every day. So that's what I've always go with, man. Just do something positive, whatever that may be, and that will work out better over time.
It's just such an honor culture in the hood. It's just like there's so much pride involved, and people have such a hard time walking away from conflicts as the loser. And an example that I saw recently that really stood out to me is Noah Scurry, aka Joker OTV, who's basically the kid from Philly who Gilly says that he killed his son. And so I watched Traplo Ross's documentary about it, and it really paints the picture of how do you go from someone who's doing amazing in school, you're a basketball prodigy, and then how do you just start killing people on the side? And you realize that as a teenager, a lot of his friends were just being wiped off the face of the earth by their ops, by the other neighborhoods that they were warring with. And, he might have lost, I forget what the number was, 6, 7, 8 friends before he basically had enough and decided that he was going to take over or take on this Joker personality or whatever, and that he was going to start getting get back. And on one hand, young kid, so kind of hard to pass judgment on him the same way that you would somebody like Durk, who's 30, making these kind of decisions. But at the same time, it's like putting myself into the position of a young man who feels like he's not him, but his neighborhood and his friend group are being so aggressively tormented by these people who just want to kill all your loved ones, seemingly. It's not that surprising that at some point he decided to take justice into his own hands. And at the same time, hard to be that sad when you realize how he lost his life, considering that the other side just basically gave him a dose of his own medicine.
Yeah. I mean, it's a sad story. Me and Traplo Ross had a lunch the other day.
He told me that.
Yeah, he lives out here now in LA.
Yes.
And it's a crazy story. It's a sad story. And at 51, you see these young men in their teens, sometimes or early 20s. They didn't get to experience a lot of shit. Like they just missed out. It's easy to Vlad is old, Adam's old, whatever else, but there's a lot of dope shit that happens in your 30s, in your 40s. Now I'm seeing in my 50s. Like you miss out on all that just because you're not really thinking about the future.
Yeah.
Because once you start killing people, it's like, okay, you're basically accepting that you're either going to die or go to prison for the rest of your life.
Yeah. But also our culture, there's so many popular rappers that the internet believes, we don't know, but the internet believes that they're murderers. And that's clearly a big part of their popularity. And the fact that
who are the popular rappers who cop bodies? Okay.
I mean, I don't even want to name them because they're people I'm cool with and they probably wouldn't appreciate it. But I just interviewed Q50 the other day.
Who?
Q50, who's Bloodhound Lil Jeff's friend.
Right.
The internet believes, I would never say such a thing, but the internet believes that he's killed a bunch of people. Clearly, it plays into his popularity.
Okay. I mean, there's Gucci Mane.
For sure.
He raps about it.
Your man Boosie is alleged to have been involved in murder for hire, and he beat it, but there's definitely people out there that have made in-depth documentaries accusing him of actually having done it.
Yeah. I mean, he was on trial.
Rap's first serial killer, I believe, was the controversial Swamp Stories title of a documentary about him that I don't think he was very happy about.
Yeah. Well, he took the trial and he beat it.
And props to him for that.
There you have it. And I don't think he brags about it or anything else like that. Who else?
Well, something like Young Thug was basically bragging about getting people knocked off in his music for many years there. Durk, same thing. He's basically telling you all the stuff that he ended up getting picked up for. Obviously, King Von was super popular, and a big chunk of the audience didn't really know about that.
Yeah, no, King Von definitely was sitting there eating cereal.
Yeah,
during his interviews, aka serial killer. You know, doing shit like that.
And I could think of a whole bunch more, and some of them are not even like huge names, but whatever popularity they do have, from my perspective, is clearly kind of rooted in the fact that the audience believes that they're the real deal.
Well, listen, I interviewed Don Corleone Blanco, who was the youngest son of Griselda Blanco, the queen of cocaine. And I remember asking him, because, I mean, his mom was killed at one point. 2 of his brothers, I think, were killed, you know, violently. And I remember asking him, I said, you know, at a certain point, like, the whole family had millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars. Why not just say, this is enough, taking this money, leaving the business, I'm done with it, whatever else, I'm going to retire, live a nice life, maybe start some legitimate business and so forth. He said, killing brings killing. You start killing people, you can't really expect it to be forgotten and, you know, water under the bridge. So you're always in a situation where you have to protect yourself, which means you still have to stay in the business and keep making money so you can protect yourself. And, you know, otherwise you let your defenses down. And, you know, I think one of his brothers got killed coming back from the gym or something. Like it was like really just like all out war. So yeah, man, like once you start going down that road, that's why I've always been like, man, it ain't that serious.
Yeah.
Whatever's going on, I don't want to kill nobody. I don't even want to do nothing violent. It's not that serious.
No, definitely. I mean, you and I are both at a point in our life where I think, you know, we're so rooted in youthful subcultures in large part, but then we're getting older and it feels like, oh, I can kind of see the latter part of my life. I can kind of imagine what retirement might be like. And I got a firsthand dose of this the other day because my kid is in a dance class. And I had to go to a little dance performance that they did at an old folks home. I pull up to the old folks home and it's, you know, a whole troop of like 24 to 6-year-old girls that are just dancing for a bunch of old folks because it's an Irish dance class and this was on St. Patrick's Day. So they do the performance for all these old people. And I'm just looking at the old people and I said to my girl, I'm like, you know, yeah, I could see myself in here one day. She goes, don't say that. Like, you know, you're going to be all right. You got a lot of people around you that love me. I'm like, well, you know, when I'm 75, a lot of the people that love me aren't going to be around anymore. And it's like, you know, this might not be best case scenario of me ending up in an old folks home, but I could picture it. And it's very weird for me as somebody who's always just been focused in on what is essentially, you know, a much younger culture to see that, like, you know, this is what being a very old man might be like. I have to at least sort of prepare for this mentally.
Yeah, I mean, my dad, when he got Parkinson's, I had to put him in a home.
Sorry to hear that.
Just because you know, he couldn't take care of himself anymore. My mom were sort of had a weird thing going on. So we just said, okay, let's just find a good home for him. But then the Parkinson's got worse. Sorry. So yeah, I mean, it happens. It happens. I'm hoping I'll have enough money where I don't have to go to a home where I could just I'll be in my own home and have people take care of me. But yeah, most people don't have that.
Definitely. Okay, so obviously the big gigantic news that I probably should have started with is the fact that the Rollin 60 Rico came down on a lot of people that only a couple of people that we have relationships with, but you and I obviously both friends with Bricc Baby. You did the first ever Big U interview, I do believe. That was a really, really big deal when it first happened. I guess I'll just start with this question, is that when you did that interview with Big U, were you completely under the impression that he was done with his street life and that he had changed his life? Because I definitely thought that at a certain point, and then at a certain point started to hear things that kind of led me to believe, in particular, Loose Cannon coming on here and talking about how he was basically the muscle for Big U, robbing weed dispensaries and strip clubs and whatnot, which ended up being in this indictment. What was your impression doing that Big U interview, and how does the Rico make you feel looking at it?
I mean, I was sad because you know, I had heard, you know, stories about Big U, but when I sat down with him, he seemed like a, you know, older guy. You know, he had kids. He was focusing on football, focusing on legitimate businesses, focusing on, you know, gang intervention and so forth. Since that time, me and him have, you know, maintained our relationship. We talk a few times a year. I've never seen anything remotely illegal based on anything I've ever seen or any conversations we've had on or off camera. I was shocked. I was not, yeah, like I was under the impression that anything was going on any level. And at the end of the day, he's still innocent until proven guilty. So, you know, remember he made that video before he turned himself in and basically said, yeah, a bunch of this internet shit now got me caught up in this Rico, and, you know, I got to turn myself in. And it's fucked up. You know, Bricc Baby has become a regular guest on my show. I just saw him a few days ago at the Beverly Center. Just randomly ran into him. Wow. Just randomly ran into him like last week. Like, oh shit, what's up? You know, went up, gave him a hug. He had some, you know, some people with him. I was like, oh shit, what's up? I'm sure he had no idea what was about to happen in a couple of days. So yeah, I was fucked up over that too. The other people in the indictment, I don't know. Yeah. But it's a federal RICO, right? Yeah. Which is ugly. You know, this is just ugly. It's yeah, I don't, you know, TMZ interviewed me earlier today about it. And yeah, man, I mean, I'm not, me and Big U are cool, and I've always maintained that. And you know, we've had multiple conversations about regular business shit. You know, if those conversations were recorded, no problem. Put them out. You know what I'm saying? Because there's always been just regular, you know, straightforward conversations.
And that's how I feel when people are saying like, oh, Adam 22 is cooperating, or Adam 22 is probably working with the feds or whatever. It's like, I would gladly take every conversation that Bricc Baby and I had ever had. Let's say he was wearing a wire, and that audio can be released to the world. And sure, there might be a little bit of stuff that would be a little shocking to people, but for the most part, this guy never told me where the bodies were hidden. If that, you know, to use a uncomfortable metaphor or anything, like most of these gangster dudes do not look at me or you as the shoulder to cry on about the worst things that they've ever done in their life, for the most part. That's just not really the kind of conversations that we're typically having with them, in particular, because if you tell Vlad that you killed somebody, Vlad's probably going to tell you that was a bad idea. If you tell Vlad you're thinking about killing somebody, he's probably going to say, like, listen, like, you sure you want to do that? It's probably not a good idea, etc. It's like, why would they've got plenty of homies that they could talk to this kind of thing through with. And I just, like, you know, people think that we're maybe a little bit more involved in some of these dudes' lives than we actually are.
I've never been a gang member on any level. I never wanted to be a Blood or a Crip or anything else like that. I've always kept these relationships business or just friendly. You know what I mean? Like, I used to always, you know, I like telling the story because me and Wack were beefing for like 10 years, right? Not beefing, acting like we're trying to get at each other, but I knew that me and Wack didn't like each other. We were both aware of this. I was aware that if I ran into him, that something might happen. So my security was always aware of this. You know what I'm saying? Right?
Very menacing looking security, just so you guys know.
But saying that, like, for example, I never went to Big U and said, hey, I got this problem with a street guy. Can you handle it for me? Right. I'm like, I'll handle it myself. Right. Because I know that if I go to a Big U, or if I go to a Bricc Baby, or if I go to a Wack 100, or I go to anyone who has some sort of affiliation on some level, and now I want them to handle problems like that, then now that relationship changes.
You're wrapped up in some shit that is uncomfortable.
Yeah, that now it's not a straightforward relationship. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I've always said, and I feel like that's where a lot of guys get in trouble, where they have that one friend and they have that friend handle a problem for them because they don't want to handle it themselves. And now you're somehow indebted to that guy. and you never know when they're going to pull out that card and say, okay, now I remember when I did that for you.
I had a little mini version of that where I got into a fight in probably 2017 or 2018, and there was an older gangster that was there, just happened to be around, and he said to me, like, right as the fight was getting broken up, he said, like, you want me to whoop this fool's ass? And I was like, do whatever. I might have just said, like, sure. And he punched the fool in the face right there and then. Immediately, it became clear to me that this guy felt like there was now a debt that had to be repaid. Really? But he wasn't looking for like a financial thing or whatever. And we ended up making it cool by like me helping one of his artists out with doing a little bit of content or whatever like that. But I realized, and I'm glad that I got like a small taste of why that's a situation that you want to avoid. Yeah. Because once you have that hanging over your head, I mean, these are guys who don't really play by the rules, and you've officially, you know, granted, could I have gone to the cops or the feds or whatever and explained that situation, and would they have basically probably done something about it? I mean, shit, maybe. But I realized then and there that, like, you have no reason as a non-gangster to be going to any kind of gangster, even if they just happen to be around and asking for favors, because you don't really want to owe favors to people who operate outside of the law.
Well, yeah, I mean, part of the indictment, and I have no idea whether it's true or not, but what the feds are alleging was that, you know, they're saying that NBA players are playing Big U, like, you know,
hundreds of thousands, you know,
check-in money, and then there was a whole thing about Adrian Broner robbing some dudes at a dice game.
And Shaq allegedly moved out of LA, at least in part because he was sick of dealing with gangster bullshit, which I think when he said that back in the day, people were a little confused. Like, why would Shaq in any way be beholden to gangster interests? Now you kind of see what that might look like.
I don't know whether any of that is true, honestly, but it's sort of like, if I was an NBA player, I'd be damned if I'd be paying anybody protection money in LA. Like, that doesn't make any goddamn sense.
No,
like,
but what if they have something on you? What if they have, I don't know, some kind of involvement, something you did that basically makes it so you can't go to the cops, or you having a wall of security around you when you're out and about isn't necessarily going to do the trick. I feel like, you know, these guys are shiesty. They figure out how they can actually get to you, and they're willing to do whatever they got to do to be able to make it happen.
Yeah, I mean, there's the Vanilla Ice story.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
Where, you know, and I went into detail with him when I first interviewed him. He said Suge would just pop up when he was like in LA, like in Benihana. He would sit down at his table, start eating his food, like literally. And then, like, one day he went back to his hotel room, and Suge and a bunch of his guys were in the hotel room, you know, and I think like Suge like grabbed the gun from a security and like smacked him or something, and it was just like, okay. This is the type of shit that was being done back in the day. I just don't think you can really get away with that kind of stuff these days, because there's so many cameras. And at the point that you and here's the thing, and it doesn't always work. Like, I remember, you know, there's a story about when Death Row was first coming together. They were at Solar Record Studios. They were working out of there, and you know, Harry O was the alleged financer of Death Row. So there was a phone, like an actual like corded phone in the studio that was only to be used for when Harry O called from prison. So no one else was allowed to use this phone, because it was a very important phone, you know, in the studio. And these two producers were on the phone, and I guess they're like, yo, man, Suge gonna get mad. He'd be like, yeah, whatever, I'm gonna finish my phone call. Suge, I guess, pistol whipped him and stripped him and said, you know, you guys better not call the police. They went outside and called the police.
Yeah.
And then if you think about it, that arrest, you know, them pressing charges got Suge arrested and put on probation, which he violated when he kicked Orlando Anderson during the Tupac MGM brawl.
Right.
So ultimately, trying to bully your way around and feel like you're outside the law and no one's going to cooperate with the police because they're so scared of you, ultimately sent him to prison.
It's amazing to me that the extortion thing still happens, because I know how serious the feds take it. I know that there's been like federal takedowns of like the Mexican gangs in the MacArthur Park area that basically are like taxing the street vendors, which, when you think about this is incredibly low level. Because if you're taxing the hot dog cart lady, I mean, what are you getting? You're getting $200 a month out of her. You're maybe getting a little bit more, but it's dog shit. It's like very bad money. But the feds take that shit super serious, at least in part because they know that money is then being basically sent up to the big dogs in prison and everything like that. But when I see stuff like that, because I read a whole book recently about basically like a federal takedown of 18th Street gang that was like extorting people in MacArthur Park. It's just like, it just feels like that's such an easy way to draw a huge amount of attention from law enforcement. They just take extortion stuff like very, very serious. And when you think about doing that to big name celebrities, I mean, you could imagine that if Shaq made a peep to the feds, that they would just be all over it, because that would just be a huge deal compared to a lot of other things that they put resources into. But I don't know, maybe they had something on Shaq that Shaq didn't want to draw attention to. I don't know.
I mean, I feel like a lot of times it's like, well, like certain celebrities don't get actual security because they're doing drugs.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And they know if they get an off-duty cop, they can't just sit there and do cocaine around them. Right. Sometimes I'm sure it goes deeper. There might be underage girls, you know what I'm saying, that they don't want anyone to know about or whatever else. And this is, I think, where some of the extortion comes in. It's like, you know, remember the Charlie Sheen situation? He had HIV.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So he was getting extorted by like a couple of people because, oh, you know, keep paying us these millions of dollars or else we'll expose the world. And he just said, okay, look, I have HIV.
Right, yeah.
I'm done with it.
I remember I knew he had AIDS years before he actually did, because I was hanging out with some porn star girls that used to be the Charlie's Angels. And I was f***ing some of them and somehow didn't get AIDS, thank God. But I remember them just like talking super freely to me about the fact that Charlie Sheen had AIDS, and just I was kind of wondering, I'm like, so this isn't going to make its way to the media? And then one day he came out and confessed it, and all of a sudden it was this huge story, and people made some very hilarious memes, including like my tweet from that time that was like, oh, me and Charlie Sheen are Eskimo brothers, and then Charlie Sheen admits he has AIDS, and they like did some memes that involved both side by side.
What's an Eskimo brother?
We both had sex with the same person.
That's an Eskimo brother?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I learned something new today. Okay.
I'm surprised you never heard that. That's crazy.
Oh
yeah. With girls, I think they call it like a sister's con leche. I heard some porn girls say that the other day.
Sister's con leche.
I forget how you say sister in Spanish, but something like that.
Wait, it's hermana?
Hermana? Yeah, something like that.
Leche.
Okay, yeah. But okay, so the Big U thing is crazy.
Yeah.
It definitely feels like this probably might not have risen to the level of this massive takedown if it wasn't for this one murder that they're alleging. That he had an artist that he was working with who I guess previously played football under him because he was a high school football coach. And this artist at one point was supposed to record in Big U's studio in Vegas. Somehow he wasn't happy with the rates that they were charging him or something. If it's his artist, I don't know why they were charging him anything to record in the space. But either way, he then records a diss song about Big U. So Big U finds out about this diss song, which I'm not sure that this diss song has ever been released. If it does get released, we're going to really have to go through the lyrics with a fine-tooth comb because that's insane. And then Big U apparently, according to the feds, was so upset about this that he shot the kid in the head, drove him into the desert, and left his body there. Now, this situation is one that Christopher Lovejoy, a.k.a. 600, who's a close associate of Wack 100, had been drawing a ton of attention to before it actually broke. And Wack himself also had kind of been acknowledging it publicly. And before the takedown took place, you were seeing a ton of people on the internet saying basically that this was disgusting and that, you know, guys like Wack and 600 shouldn't be wishing prison upon people, etc. Then the indictment comes down and it's kind of like, oh, you guys were talking about some real shit, I guess.
Well, didn't you say that 600 was with the feds when the house was being raided or something like that?
Big U said that 600 was with them. I don't necessarily know that that's true. I saw a clip that I believe 600 filmed where he was driving up to Big U's house, which was taped off, and he was filming it, and he was asking the cops outside, hey, what are you doing? What was this situation or whatever? They raided the house. Big U wasn't actually there, but Yeah, I don't think 600 was actually like rolling with the cops in that situation. That would be very out of the ordinary.
I mean, Big U has been like a figure on the internet now for quite a while. Like definitely after my interview with him.
Yeah.
Like
everybody knows about him.
Everybody knew who Big U was.
Done a bunch of TV stuff and all
Done
that.
TV stuff. Lots of people have dissed him in various ways on the internet and so forth. I've had conversations. I remember there was a whole Loose Cannon thing where, you know, Loose was saying how Big U somehow set up Nipsey, you know.
Which now a lot of people are looking at a little differently now. That
I don't think that happened on any level. I don't think so. I remember I called you. That was one of our conversations. I was like, yo, man, I'm sorry you're going through this bullshit. Like, this is just dumb. You know what I'm saying? I think I went on No Jumper and I talked about it afterwards. And it was just like, he's like, yeah, man, this is just the bullshit I got to deal with. But like, I never got the impression that you really, you're going to kill someone over, you're going to kill an unknown rapper over a diss song.
Right. Sounds kind of bizarre.
Nobody will really hear.
Yeah.
Really? You're gonna kill a rapper that no one's ever heard of.
As of yet, I don't even know if anybody knows that person's rap name, the kid who got killed. Listen, never mind if he ever even put music out on any serious level.
Okay, like if Drake killed Kendrick over Not Like Us being performed at the Super Bowl, I think I would be like, all right, we kind of get it.
Yeah, bad decision, but we understand where the impulse came
from.
Right,
it's just like he finally reached his breaking point when it's performed at the goddamn Super Bowl.
Right.
Like, you know, whereas like Kendrick probably A minor, like the whole crowd, the whole Super Bowl singing it, you know, living rooms around the country or singing along to the shit. I'm sure at one point it's like I'm sick of this. I'm so tired of hearing Not Like Us and these fake file statements that I'm finally just gonna snap. And I have a whole bunch of people that are 10 times removed from me that'll handle it, and I'm done. So you're gonna tell me that a 50-something-year-old man who's been enjoying being out of prison for a very long time is gonna go and kill someone himself over a diss song?
That being said,
it just sounds dumb, doesn't it?
But so much of what Loose Cannon has alleged that is basically also in this indictment, like, why would a guy who's in his 50s, who's presumably got a nice, cushion of money and doesn't need to be out here extorting people, why would he be running up in weed dispensaries and strip clubs and basically demanding cash for protection from them? It's like, I feel like a lot of these guys,
I have no idea about anything.
Once they become career criminals, I think it's harder than we would think to let go of that life.
I don't think so.
Really? We've seen a lot of people do it. Terrence Gangster Williams, he did a great job. He left his violent past behind,
Well, I think it happens. I remember speaking to Chi Ali, and he was saying how recidivism happens when people get out younger in life, but when they get out older in life, it doesn't happen very often.
Right.
You get out in your 50s, everyone that you hung around during the time that you were out is either dead, in jail, or has really left this life completely behind, moved away, doesn't want anything to do with it, or is fucked up off of drugs. You see what I'm saying? Look, Chi Ali killed somebody. I've never heard of him getting a parking ticket since that time.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? He's, I believe, in his 50s as well. Or his 40s at the very latest, at the very youngest. So it's just like someone like a Big U who is in his 50s, who hasn't done jail time in a long time, who is generally well respected, I think, especially in LA.
For sure. Feared and respected, for sure.
Yeah, but once you get to know him, I've never had any, once I got to know Big U, before I was a little worried about, I remember after the interview, I was like, hey, do you want me to run the titles by you before we put them on? He's like, oh, man, do whatever you want. Do you. I don't care about that. And I'm like, oh, okay, this is not the reputation, not to say what people are like if you push them hard enough, but I'm saying, I've never been scared of Big U since that interview. I've called him. He always picks up the phone. We always have cool conversations. There's never anything negative. Cool dude. Whenever Wack would speak about him, I would always cut that part out because I'm like, I don't agree with this.
Yeah.
And y'all two were friends at one point.
Yeah.
So I don't understand.
I was real cool with Big U at one point, but I remember when I first started the podcast with Wack, Bricc three-wayed me on FaceTime, and it was with Big U. And Big U told me something along the lines of, hey, we cool, but I can't fuck with you. Because I was doing the podcast with Wack. And it was basically what he was inferring was, I'm not going to do anything to you. You are fucking with my bro Bricc, so I got to give you a little bit of leeway or whatever. But you're doing a podcast with this guy that I 1000% do not fuck with, so I'm not having anything to do with you. And I knew that kind of thing was probably coming when I started doing the podcast with Wack.
Yeah, but for example, I never got that phone call because although I have Wack as a regular guest, I've always just avoided this topic.
I think I also was the first person to kind of like normalize Wack in a little bit more of the mainstream hip hop space. Not to say that he didn't already have his own thing going on, but as far as platforms really embracing Wack,
it was you.
Kind of cracked it open. And also, I wasn't editing anything out. He was talking about Big U, and I was attempting to put up a little bit of an argument and present the other side or whatever, but it's difficult when you're dealing with Wack.
I was just cutting it out, and I'm just like, me and you are cool. Me and Big U are cool, and I'm not getting in the middle of this. Because honestly, I honestly felt the two of them were going to be cool again at some point.
Yeah.
I just felt this was just temporary. You know what I'm saying? Because I think, like, once you get to know Wack, you realize that, like, a lot of times it doesn't run that deep in terms of, like, his what he says online and so forth, because like leading up to me and him being cool, he was still like talking shit about me on Clubhouse and stuff like that. Like there's been a bunch of negative shit he said about me, but it's like once we became cool, it's like all that just didn't matter.
You can have a whole beef with Wack, and if you go to him and you say, yo, I'm trying to squash it or whatever, he's not the kind of person that really wants to just be engaged in cruelty towards an unwilling participant. Now, if you've got smoke for him, if you want to go on podcast, you want to shit on Wack, then Wack is going to shit on you right back, and he's probably going to find a way to up the ante and make it more painful for you than it is for him, especially him as somebody where, what are you really going to say about him? He's had everything you could say about him, and he's maneuvered through all of it.
Right.
But yeah, from my perspective, most of the people that Wack has an issue with, if they were willing to go to his Clubhouse room for an hour and take a little bit of verbal abuse in the process of getting back on good terms with him, he usually seems pretty open to that. But however, the Big U thing definitely feels like it got too deep at a certain point, and there wasn't really much coming back from it. And actually, in the indictment, it says that at one point there was recorded wiretap or phone recordings of Big U claiming that that he ran down on Wack with a large number of Crips with him, and that Wack was begging for forgiveness, to be left alone. Oh, I'm with my wife, I'm with my kid. I brought this up to Wack yesterday on the news over the phone. Wack said, okay, it may say that in the paperwork. He might have told people that didn't happen. Which,
like, at all?
Wack says it never happened. And to be fair, from my perspective, if you've got somebody like Wack that you want dead in your crosshairs like that, he's going to beg for forgiveness and you're just going to walk away from it? Nah, I don't think so. I feel like if you really had Wack lined up like that, you were probably going to make it a lot worse than just making him apologize and beg for forgiveness.
I feel like this is such like the hip hop story that never gets co-signed by both parties. It's like Tony Ayo said a story about how they ran up on Benzino and they gave him a pass. And then Benzino was like mad about that story, saying it didn't happen that way. And Tony's like, I believe Tony's version. Like Tony has never been one to exaggerate.
Yeah.
Around me, on or off camera. Like we've had a lot of, me and Tony actually have a friendship now.
Right.
So we do talk a lot just on the phone, just bullshitting. You know what I'm saying? Benzino, who's now back on the show partially,
not with you, but with
Sean Prez, has gone off the rails on a number of times and said a bunch of crazy shit. And so
it's kind of like his signature move.
Yeah,
he goes off the rails on a variety of podcasts. Shout out to Benzino. I did a great 3-hour interview with Benzino. didn't really travel or go viral or anything because he didn't really have a while out moment. It was just like a very mature, respectable conversation. Obviously, me and Benzino's friendship is kind of tested by the fact that I'm so cool with Wack, and Wack is constantly putting narratives on him. But, you know, that's always a weird feeling when you have a great conversation with somebody. I remember I did a Soulja Boy interview, and I think it was one of the first. Well, Soulja Boy told me that you were my first interview when I was on the phone with him the other day, which obviously he had done Vlad a bunch of times before that and stuff. I don't know what he was referring to exactly in terms of first interview, but I did an interview with Soulja Boy. It was fine. Had a couple of viral moments. The views were good, but then like a month or two later, he goes and does the Breakfast Club interview where he does the Drake and is basically like performing his like, you know, wild ass personality at that point. And it was kind of weird to be like, oh, like, you could have showed up and given me that version of you. That would have been nice. But yeah, exactly. Yeah. I had a great long-term like sit down with him, but it wasn't the viral monstrosity that you and the Breakfast Club guy. Yeah.
You know what's funny is that like I had totally forgotten that even happened as I'm doing the interview because I kind of zone out when I do interviews.
Because you're thinking about what the next thing is going to be. So a lot of times you're not 100% tuned in to exactly what is being said at this moment.
And that clip comes out, and suddenly, like, Soulja Boy challenge happens.
Yeah,
I think Joe Budden was the first.
Joe did it. Yeah,
I think he started it.
He was definitely like, I saw him do it, and then realized like, oh, he's referencing this Soulja Boy clip that I now need to go watch. Yeah,
right. And everyone was like, yo, like, I know you were going crazy when you did that. I'm like, no, I was thinking about the next question.
Yeah,
that was entertaining, but I didn't think it was going to do that to the point where like Childish Gambino when he did looks like I think it's called like a song called like Feels Like Summer. They actually recreated that part of the video with Soulja Boy, and then there was like a little baby like Trippy Red like watching like you know I mean what was it? Virgil wanted to use that in his art exhibit at the Chicago Museum of Modern Art. Ultimately, we didn't let him use it because they didn't want to give us tickets to the premiere.
Really?
Yeah, I thought that was lame.
But he wanted to use it in an art piece?
Yes. Well, that was going to be one of the displays in his. So the Museum of Modern Art in Chicago, which is a major museum, basically did a whole thing on Virgil. So one of the actual pieces was my video playing.
Oh, just the full video.
With some other stuff, I guess.
Oh, okay.
And so they're like, oh, we want to use it. And I'm like, you know, they weren't talking about, you know, money at all. Right. So I was like, all right, well, could we get tickets to the premiere? They're like, oh yeah, sure. And then I'm like, I get the tickets and I'm like, well, no, I'm talking about the real premiere where it's like, they're selling like tables for like, you know, $1,500 a seat and stuff like that. They're like, oh no, we don't have access to that. We'll just basically give you a ticket to the museum. I'm
like a $20 ticket.
Yeah, like a $20 ticket. I'm like, are you fucking serious right now?
Yeah.
Like, oh no, but this is for some fundraiser. I'm like, you're using my shit to raise these funds partially. So you're telling me I can't get tickets to this? And I'm like, all right, Virgil bugging. Like, you know what I'm saying?
It's interesting that they were that concerned about it because I feel like they probably could have skated by on claiming it was fair use.
No,
but
I would have sued him.
Really? Wow.
Yeah,
okay.
I would have sued him.
Respect.
Yeah. In fact, like I remember, I'm so sick of people using like, you know, like my video with Ari Spears showed up in the Netflix documentary for the Mike Tyson Jake Paul fight.
Okay, and you sued?
No, like, but I'm about to. Like, I made sure after that, like, I hired someone to make sure that all my stuff now is copyrighted with the Copyright Office.
Okay.
So everything is now copyrighted. So the next person to use my shit on a bigger platform is gonna end up in court.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I'm sick of it. You know, especially like HBO used my shit. Like it just gets used. You know, Lil Baby used my video performing. Like it's just, you know, at Rolling Loud or Coachella, like these major events where you're getting paid millions of dollars to perform. Like I'm sick of this shit.
Yeah.
You know, in the same way people protect their music and, you know, you can't sample their shit. You can't just use my shit. All these big IG pages that are using my screen captures and stuff like that.
Right.
It's about to start getting real legal.
Because that's just a part of your day that you go through people who've used your content on Instagram or YouTube and you flag stuff and get stuff taken down. And see, that's something I've been a little slower to adapt. But like I said, what would Vlad do? As much as it might seem a little bit preemptive, For sure. I got people suing me. I'm gonna start suing
Well, that's
people.
what I'm saying. We get sued for shit.
Yeah.
It's fair game. You know what I'm saying? And listen, we've had a lot of people where usually my first thing is like once I flag it, they come back, oh, we're really sorry, we'll remove it. It's like, you'll have to license it. It's $5,000.
Mm-hmm.
You know, sometimes I'll work with people here and there, or it might be 10,000 depending on who it is. And a lot of people pay because like, what are you gonna do?
But I know you've. I heard you speak something about it where it's a little bit upsetting to you that people make whole little documentaries misrepresenting you and acting like you're this piece of shit, and they use your footage, and it's fair use, so you can't really do a whole lot about it.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah. Okay.
We'll see.
There's got to be a way.
Yeah.
Sooner or later. Okay, and then just to touch on the whole Bricc Baby thing. I mean, from my perspective, Bricc Baby's somebody who I've seen him really trying to change his life. In various ways, he was in the streets throughout the whole beginning part of his life. He's been with me for 2 years. At the very beginning of the 2 years, he ended up getting his house raided by the cops, and they found an AK, allegedly. And then, well, this is actually discussed in the Rico, so I don't know if it's really alleged at this point, but never charges filed. Wack sat on this podcast many times and said that the fact that there were no charges filed basically was indicative of the fact that Bricc was telling. My perspective always was maybe, but I think more likely is that this is all going to get wrapped up into some kind of federal thing at some point, and that's exactly what happened. But again, that was like 2 years ago, and you know, I see him day to day, and I see what kind of life he's trying to live, and there's just been so many times where he just sat there and just told me, and not in a way where he was like grandstanding or trying to win me over or trying to gas me up, but where he said, you don't know how nice it is to be hanging out with people like you and doing business like this, because so much of my younger life involved, oh, we got to go to a show, we got to perform at a show. We know there's a massive chance of some kind of violent altercation happening when we go to perform at this show. Or, you know, me taking him to like porn parties and he's just hanging out around. Porn party sounds crazy, but you know, to situations where it's just a bunch of girls, it's very low key. They're not even searching you at the door. There's nobody's worried about who's got a gun at the porn party. It's just very much like a chill atmosphere in comparison. And I've just like seen that. I remember the first time that we recorded in the studio together, and he actually just said to me in lunch, he goes, you know, this is a good way for us to hang out because we don't got to be outside or nothing. We can just hang out and make music. And it's like, you know, it's very, this is like a good way for us to hang out. And I'm like, oh, like we're actually becoming friends. Like he actually looks at me and Lush as people that he just wants to kick it with and make music and shit like that. And so to see something from a couple of years ago really come back to get him. And again, I don't know what's going to be in the sealed indictment. That's kind of like the big.
Oh, there's another one, another part.
Yeah, and a lot of speculation about what might be in it. We have absolutely no idea. I mean, I guess you could imagine that it's almost nothing. You could imagine that it could be a big deal. There's a lot of people who've tried to say that Bricc could have been involved in the whole OTF thing. I personally, through my conversations with Bricc, he pretty much assured me that this is not something that he was in any way involved in, and I tend to believe him.
Yeah. But
you never know. What's your perspective on Bricc, having seen him over the last couple months that you guys have been doing content and everything?
Sad. It's sad. It seems like Bricc, you know, he has a new baby, right?
He has like I think she's 2.
Yeah. So yeah. He has a young baby. He has other kids.
You know, one just turned 16, you know, just got her a car and shit.
Yeah. He seems like he's taking care of his family. He seems like he actually cares. Like, you know, there's a lot of parents, both male and female, that don't do a good job of caring about their kids. He actually seemed like he really does care about his kids.
For sure.
It seemed like he was really embracing the whole content thing. Me and him had a conversation about building up his YouTube channel. You know, because I was like, yo, if you really stay with the consistency, you could really control your own shit. You know what I'm saying? It's cool to do No Jumper and Vlad TV, but really I think the goal should be your shit. And like I said, I just ran into him randomly at the Beverly Center. And to see this come together, and I think it's just sad that it's wrapped up into this bigger Rico. Yeah. A gun charge is a gun charge. Right. All right. You could beat a gun charge. You could get your lawyer, you plead out, blah, blah, blah. Rico is something different. Rico gets involved with I mean, the purpose of a RICO was designed for the mafia, where you had people that were not committing crimes that, you know, they were telling other people allegedly to do it, and that's how they're able to get these mob bosses and these captains and stuff like that. So the whole thing of a RICO is that you're being charged with things that you may not have done yourself. You know, other people have done acts and you're being blamed for what other people have done. And that's the scary part of a RICO.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, honestly, I had a conversation with Brick's girl and his mom earlier today, and at least from their perspective, Bricc has nothing to do with any of the very serious charges that they're trying to put on Big U, which is my understanding too. Like, you know, a lot of the stuff that Loose Cannon was talking about, I got the feeling that this was like pretty foreign to Bricc, that he didn't have that level of involvement with whatever Big U had going on. But that Brick's from Rollin 60s. They had this gun charge that they've been sitting on for a while. They want to make it look good for the media. They want to put a lot of pressure on whoever they can to talk about Big U. So they wrap Big U up, or they wrap Bricc up in this whole Big U Rollin 60s indictment. And as a result, probably right now they're leaning on Bricc to try to get information about Big U and whatnot. But really, ultimately, the crime that they're charging him with doesn't have anything to do with anything besides the fact that they allegedly found this gun in his house. Now, that being said, there's the sealed indictment. We don't know what's in that. But yeah, I mean, it does kind of seem like talking to his mom and his girl, they're saying, we think that if this goes well and we get a good lawyer to deal with his bond or whatever, that he could be home in a couple weeks. Yeah. Which would be crazy for him to be home in a couple weeks and be on ankle monitor for the next couple years or a year or however long it takes to fight it. Yeah,
I'll take an ankle monitor any day of the week.
Yeah, 100%.
Sad, man. It's sad. I like the guy. I wouldn't keep having him on my show if I didn't like him. You know, we create content that people react to. Me and him, you know, hang out afterwards. We'll smoke a joint, you know, outside.
Oh, really?
I mean, it was cool, man. I was looking forward to the next interview.
You got to feel like the feds have like a little bit of a sense of humor, because we finally got Loose Cannon and Bricc Baby on camera together the night before the RICO. We finally do that. The fans are going nuts. The fans
Loose Cannon was back on No Jumper.
We brought him back for that, yeah.
Really?
And
even with all the craziness that happened in the parking lot,
which was also mentioned in this indictment. Do you see that?
Oh, was it?
Oh yeah. And kind of a cause for concern, because they pinpointed and said like that Loose Cannon smacked this guy with a gun repeatedly and removed $5,000+ worth of stuff from him. I don't know how they would get to that number without having a conversation with this guy. Also, how did this guy have $5,000 worth of stuff on him? He probably had an iPhone.
Okay, so that's what, maybe $1,200
at most, yeah. And then
what else?
I can't, like, maybe he had a chain or something. He didn't strike me as the kind of guy who's wearing a $4,000 chain. But
yeah, they're trying to get to like a grand theft.
Maybe, threshold. Yeah. I don't know.
You know, maybe that's where that number comes from.
But the funniest thing about it is that, you know, Bricc Baby on this podcast smokes huge amounts of weed, back-to-back blunts. And Loose Cannon, meanwhile, doesn't even kick it with people who smoke weed, I'm pretty sure. He doesn't smoke weed, he doesn't drink. Just from the contact high of Bricc smoking in this room with him, Loose's brain turned into oatmeal pie by the end of that interview. Like, he just quickly got to the point where he was basically incapable of engaging in the conversation, which was not great for the podcast, but kind of hilarious for us to witness. But, you know, hopefully both of them are free and can come back together. Well, they probably have some kind of stipulation where they're maybe not allowed to fraternize with other people who are part of that same thing. I don't know.
I actually have my own weed strain coming.
Really?
I got a deal. I'm not going to say with who.
Really?
But it's with a company that I actually was working with, like myself personally. It was a brand that I kept buying year after year. So we just put a deal together, and I'm going to have my own strand with the Vlad TV logo on it.
Oh, that's dope.
7 states.
Nice.
So you're the first person that's hearing about it.
Wow, that's cool.
I actually got some samples in the car we can smoke out.
It's funny you say that, because on some shit weed, we've actually got that popping up in a bunch of dispensaries in the near future too.
OG
with
shit.
The oomph strain that we got right here. Yeah.
Okay, how's that doing?
It's cool. We haven't really had it in dispensaries yet, but we got a bunch of them on deck that we're about to be in LA. So we'll see how that kind of goes. We've played with this idea over the years. In like 2019, we had a whole no jumper weed strain that we were working with. We did a whole meet and greet for it, all this kind of stuff. And then the company we were partnered with just ended up being retarded. And so we kind of, that went on the back burner for a while, but we're kind of trying to get it back off the ground. Yeah.
Well, we'll see. We'll see if this one works out. Because this is actually a weed product that I fuck with myself. And the plan is that after I interview people, I'll actually smoke with them afterwards and give them product. And, you know, if they're cool with it, you know, we'll post the videos.
Usually I have another interview right after most interviews. So for me, getting high, like even this morning, I'm working on my computer for like an hour and there's half a joint sitting in the ashtray. And I just kept looking at it and they're just thinking, you got to interview Vlad. Don't do it. You don't want to be slow.
Can we smoke in here?
Sure. Of course.
Want to bring my weed in?
I would love to see you get overtly high.
All right, let's do it. Hold on. Let me go to my car real quick.
Okay.
I'll be right back. I got blunts and joints. Which one do you want to do?
Shit, I'll smoke a blunt with you. Why not?
All right, so this is
oh Lord, I'm gonna only take a puff or two. I gotta do another.
This is actually my new strain. This is actually a King Louis.
Okay.
This is a King Louis.
No relationship to King Louis, the rapper you've interviewed many times, drill legend.
Now this right here is not just regular weed.
Okay, what is it?
Don't say the brand name yet.
Okay.
Don't say the brand name yet.
All right.
Because, you know, I don't want to announce it yet.
Maybe later.
But this right here is not just
smoking
weed,
on Vlad.
But this is actually moon rocks. So it's a little more serious than the regular blunt.
I'm officially worried. Moon rocks are fucking crazy.
Yeah.
But you're a fan of that?
Yeah, I am actually. See, I fuck with the joints.
Okay.
I'm gonna let you smoke that. I'm gonna smoke the joint.
There's a lot of moon rock products over the years that they're so like mushy and like hard to even roll up. I've had people there used to be a craze. People were giving me that stuff. I feel like the modern moon rocks might not be necessary.
Ashtray or?
Yeah. Put it on the ground or right here. I got it right there, yeah.
All right. Okay, yeah. King Farm, I got some of these ashtrays too.
First time you ever smoked on camera?
No, I smoked on camera when I was on a Shirley Juice show.
Oh, okay, there you go.
Yeah. Yeah, I had to do her show and apologize.
Yeah, I remember that. Asshole. That was a good time.
Yeah.
But like, what's your perspective on weed? Because you told me previously that you only smoke at night once the day is done. That used to be true though, right?
No, I wake and bake pretty much.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, I smoke in the morning. I realized, for example, that you know, in the morning I got like my real work. Usually, like, I gotta do some of the titles and I gotta deal with real work shit. I realized I gotta work out in the morning before actually starting my real work. If I can work out in the morning, I go to my gym, I knock it out, and then I can start my real work. If I say, okay, I'm just gonna handle some work and then I'll go work out, I never work out.
Because you're so addicted to the actual work, right?
Or you just, you know, it takes so much mental energy that you're just a little tired.
Yeah.
I think, you know. But yeah, no, I usually smoke in the mornings. And, you know, smoke at night sometimes, you know, depending on the day. I've been smoking since I was like 18. So
for me, I look back at my whole life of like going out riding BMX bikes 12 hours a day, and I don't understand how I did all that high as for all those years. When I look at it now, I'm like, because now I don't smoke all day. Sometimes I'll smoke during my last interview of the day, but it's like if I got 3 interviews in a day, I'm not trying to slow myself down. Usually I'll like just kind of bide my time and just wait till later on.
So what do you think?
It's nice.
Yeah.
I'm curious about this wrap. I've never actually seen something quite like this. I'm wondering what it's made of. But no, it's nice. I'm a little cautious about getting overly high right now, but I never thought I was going to see Vlad getting high in November. That's exciting.
Yeah, man. I don't think we ever even spoke together.
No, never.
No.
I never smoke with anybody. I always just do personal.
Yeah, I know. I was going to say.
I got spliffs.
There's a reason, but yeah.
Yeah. I usually only smoke with tobacco.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't fuck with tobacco.
Yeah. I don't
That's why
it.
I'd rather fuck with the blunt right now. I don't know if you want to use ashtray or not.
Yeah. No, for sure.
This is about to turn into a high interview now.
it might
I don't know what I'm talking about.
move slightly slower. Right. You can imagine that.
Yeah.
Okay. I got a few other questions that I'd like to hone in on. So
let's go.
Where are you at with Kanye right now? Would you do a Kanye interview right now? Word on the streets is that academics interviewed him yesterday.
Yeah, I heard that too.
Okay. I didn't actually ask him, but people told me that he did.
He was supposed to interview him.
Right.
I don't know if it happened.
This definitely seems like it might be like a 50-50 chance maybe at best.
Yeah, I don't think it's 50-50. I think it's...
He was tweeting about it. And Ack came out here to do it. So you would hope that it happened. But
I mean, hopefully it happened.
But I feel like if it happened, maybe Ack would have done a little bit of a victory lap online already. Would have posted a screenshot or something, maybe.
You never know. It was a big interview for him. This might be his biggest interview ever.
That's a big interview for sure.
Yeah, no, I would do the interview, but I'm also not going to hold my tongue.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think Kanye would actually do it. And like me and John Monopoly have been like really friends forever.
Okay.
For like way before Vlad TV. I'm like 20 years at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Been in my home, like I've been in his home, like that type of thing. And he's never been able to hook it up properly. So, not that he hasn't tried, he has, but, yeah, I would do it, but I would push down on everything.
Mm-hmm.
It would not be like, I would either push down everything or I would just say, let's just talk about your music catalog.
Right. Which I feel like he would probably not really do. I feel like the more you try to guide him in the direction, because he's been like that forever. I remember in the very early days of hip hop podcasting, Juan Epstein had Kanye on, and even back then, even in 2014 or whatever year this was, they could not get him to just talk about the music. It was fucking impossible. But I mean, it seems like a very big challenge to take on, at least for me, because I don't really know if I'm ready to have the argument with Kanye about Jews are not part of an evil cabal that rules the world or whatever. I just don't. That's such a weighty conversation that I don't know that I'm well researched enough to have. I know you are a Jew, so you probably had a bit more of it over the years. I'm actually
Jewish. I've actually had family members killed by Nazis.
Right.
So we could have that conversation. I just don't think that he will actually have that conversation with someone who's Jewish. Yeah. I just don't think he will, because you can't really stand on a lot of the shit you're talking about. It's all fucking nonsense.
Yeah.
I mean, to post up a Ku Klux Klan robe with a swastika,
over and over,
chain. I tweeted, I say Kanye West, who was the jeweler that made that ice swastika.
I know, I was wondering that.
Yeah, he didn't respond.
I would love to know who made that. The iced out swastika is a crazy level of commitment. I mean, shit, I thought it was a level of commitment when he had a Super Bowl ad, and then when you went to his online store, the only thing available was the swastika shirt. That, even of itself, is pretty unprecedented in this day and age.
Right. Shopify got shut down over that.
All right, I wonder if he found a replacement since.
I mean, I don't know whether this is like performance art for him, whether it's like, yo, I'm going to take artistry to the highest level. I'm actually going to like talk about Hitler, and I'm going to have an iced out swastika, and I'm going to have Ku Klux Klan robes, and I'm going to have a choir. I'm going to bring back Sunday service. My choir is going to be named the N-word.
Yeah. And he said new Sunday service logo, and it was the SS bolts.
Yeah, right.
So many things I never could have imagined.
Yeah, it's just all this really nasty, and it's just like, and it's funny because now there's this whole, Hitler didn't hate black people. It's like, really? So when you see these white supremacists, they like black people?
I don't think he had a whole lot of black people to hate in Germany in the 40s.
They had black people. They had mixed race people,
right?
But what happened was that once the Nazis took over,
and they took over northern Africa at one point.
Did they?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, all of the mixed race people in Germany were what's that process where you can't reproduce?
Euthanized or no,
not euthanized.
Castrated.
Not castrated.
Well, that's what they cut the whole.
But it's some sort of process.
Oh shit! Actually, they ultimately failed at conquering northern Africa, but they tried.
Okay, there you go.
Okay.
Yeah, but basically, the Nazi Party made all the mixed people, the black and white mixed people in Germany, unable to reproduce.
Okay.
Because they were not
sterilized.
Sterilized. There we go.
Sorry,
so all these people were sterilized, so they could reproduce, and some of them even ended up being Nazi soldiers. So you got these sterilized, mixed and black people who are Nazi soldiers, but they can't reproduce because there's the master race thing going on, and these are ultimately people that are messing up this concept of a German master race. So it's you're embracing a culture that really just hates you. Maybe that's part of his performance art, but he's calling Drake the F word.
Yeah.
Oh, and you see the shit with Kim Kardashian shit. She said that the Kardashians are sex trafficking my black children.
Yep. Just like all the craziest shit you could ever imagine him saying.
I'm surprised that at some point, Kim doesn't just sue him.
You could definitely imagine that kind of coming down.
And think about how big of a lawsuit that could be.
Think about how many people are suing him right now, and already. But
it's
got to be really draining.
Would hit a little different.
Oh yeah.
I'm also wondering how Bianca's dealing with all this.
Man, she's like, according to people, she's brilliant. She's independent. She knows what's going on, which is like, I think a lot of people have like written her into this role of just assuming that she's just like some sort of slave to him at this point, because that's like the only way that you can imagine somebody really sticking around for this. But yeah, I mean, you never hear any kind of commentary from her at all. I don't know. She must really be on board for the ride that this is.
Well, I mean, listen, it's a ride with a billionaire who spends money freely. Remember, he gave game the 2 chromed out Mercedes.
Yeah.
And you look high right now.
I'm a little high. You look high.
Do I look high?
Yeah.
Oh, I am high.
We both look high.
We both look high. It all changed.
And you're leaning back now. He's got a ponytail now.
Yo.
It's just Vlad, but he's got a ponytail.
Okay. I know, right?
That's bold.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah. Because my hair was getting long. If you see like some of my interviews, like with Matt Hoffa, like literally my hair is like kind of like in my face.
Yeah.
And I was just like, yo, man, it's kind of long enough to start pulling back.
Right.
So I'm like, yo, I'm gonna pull it back.
Yeah.
Just let it grow out.
Looks good.
Yeah, thank you.
Joe Budden accused you of having a hair transplant.
Yeah, I did.
I know, because you asked me about it before you got it. I just wanted to see if you were going.
It was the same doctor, and I checked with you, so you and I went to the same doctor.
Right.
Doctor, is it?
I can't remember, but you went to the same doctor as my second hair transplant, which was not my third hair transplant, which I got in Turkey, which I would now massively recommend to anybody who's getting a hair
so you wouldn't go back to our same doctor?
No, because, well, number one, I got it for free in Turkey. Had to pay for the flight, which that and the hotel were
free $99.
Pretty expensive. But it's so cheap. There was a guy I was sitting next to that I was having a conversation with in the van where they transport you back and forth to the hair transplant spot, and he told me he spent $2,500 to get like 5,000 follicles. Whereas, like, I know personally, I think I got $1,500 for $18,000 in 2019 or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you can look at my old pictures and you can see what I look like, my old photos, and what I look like now. And just like 90%. Like, it's so funny that once you get it done, you look at 90% of entertainment and everyone's gotten it done.
Yeah.
Machine Gun Kelly.
Oh, yeah.
Tyga, like Safari, like, Timberland, like.
But just nobody talks about it. But then, like, honestly, I never would have talked about it. But then one day we're doing the No Jumper show. We're deep into it, a couple hours. And AD just catches me off guard, and he just goes, "Admit you got a hair transplant." And I just like, you just see my face. It's so obvious. I can't lie,
And watching you talk about it was what got me to do it.
Yeah.
Because then I called you because you were like the first person I personally knew that had it done, that I actually could just call on the phone and just chop it up with like that.
Right.
And I'm like, oh, okay, who'd you use? And then you named a doctor, and that was like on I had a short list of people that potentially was going to go with, and that name was on there. I'm like, yeah, could I have the money?
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
As a guy, there's no other surgery that really makes sense. Like, girls are out here spending hundreds of thousands on surgeries. For us, it's like, what are you going to do? I mean, you could get lipo. Yeah, kind of looks weird from my perspective. I'm not
doing lipo.
Yeah, I don't want to do that.
I'm not getting a BBL, even though I got a flat ass. My ass so flat, yo.
Yo, same. And I've definitely looked at my ass and thought that's a prime BBL candidate right there, because that's a little bit flat.
I saw a porn movie once, right? A porn scene, and it was a white dude who had this like kind of slight BBL, but you could tell it was a BBL. You could tell. And I could not watch it. I had to delete that shit off my computer because it was so fucking distracting.
This is like trans porn here.
It was so distracting to watch that I was just like, I can't fucking do this. This is just
my God,
fucking up my whole vibe. Like, and I'm a porn fan, but I'm just saying that right there. I hope that doesn't turn into a trend. That was the only time I've ever seen that, though.
Yeah.
maybe in gay porn this shows up.
Well, somebody like Saucy Santana has a BBL.
Right. But that's gay.
Yeah.
Saucy's gay.
Yeah.
Right? So in the gay world, yeah, go ahead. BBL, whatever you want to do. But I'm saying, in the straight world, though, you just don't see dudes getting BBLs.
But I think having a flat ass is like an old white guy thing. And I think having a round ass, like Wack got like a booty. Like you could tell his ass cheeks are round as fuck.
Comfortable having this conversation, right?
But it's true. Like he's just got like a round ass. You could tell, and like we got flat asses. What is that?
Yeah, unfortunately, me and Wack talked about it on camera, like that video that girl took of him.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, when you saying that, that's
you can picture it too. Yeah,
that's what's popping in my head. Unfortunately.
Yeah.
Wack, I'm telling you, I did not request this part of the conversation. This was just sprung on me. I'm not comfortable talking about this. But yeah, I have a flat ass.
That's why I got to stay under the squat rack because it's like I got to keep one day I'm having a nice round ass.
You show up naked on camera. I don't. Yeah. You know, I just know that in my private life I have a flat ass.
I've been on a hardcore diet for the past couple of weeks because I just looked at the scale one day and saw 240 staring back at me. I was 215 2 years ago, and I was just like, God damn it! How did I let this happen?
I'm 220 and I used to be 205. So I'm fucked up right now. Like I got to get back.
What are you planning to fix? What's the leak you need to plug in regards to you gaining this weight?
It's just food.
Yeah,
it's always just food.
But what's your advice?
I'm going to go back to counting calories again.
Yeah,
that's what I'm going back to. Once I counted calories, that was in my life the biggest weight loss I ever had, including when I tried Ozempic. Was from counting calories.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I tried Ozempic for a few months. I didn't like it.
You don't like it?
Yeah. Just made you nauseous, man. Like, have you tried it?
No.
Oh, you haven't tried it?
I was thinking, like, a month ago, I thought to myself, I'm either going to get on testosterone or Ozempic, and then I just did neither. And
what does testosterone do?
Get big, brolic, strong as fuck.
Okay.
You burn more fat. You just it does everything. It increase your sex drive, all kinds of crazy shit.
Okay.
It's a little unsustainable though. If you're going to get on it, it's like you got to stay on it for a long time and then a handful of months and then wean yourself off of it, or you just kind of stay on like a maintenance dose forever. That's what Dan Bilzerian recommended to me in my interview with him.
Oh.
Get on testosterone and stay on it.
Forever.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I heard once you get on it, it messes up your natural ability to generate testosterone. That's what someone told me.
And we're going to have another kid, and apparently... your sperm.
You got another kid on the way?
Not officially, but we're like kind of talking about it, working towards it.
Yeah.
And that's one thing where apparently your sperm is like not that good at making babies when you're on testosterone. So
why don't you do in vitro?
No comment.
No comment? You're doing in vitro. Good for you. They say that this is what I heard, right? That in the future, not in the foreseeable future, but like let's just say 1,000 years from now, most babies will be born through in vitro just because of how much safer it is.
Is it really?
To do in vitro. Well, yeah, because with in vitro, and I looked into this, you could actually test for birth defects.
Okay.
At the embryo level. Meaning that if you got a hermaphrodite that's about to be, turned into a baby, you could say, no, we're good. We'll toss this one out.
Wow.
Yeah. Or if you're like Down syndromes, that type of shit, you catch that shit early. Because a lot of times when women have miscarriages, I know it's always a sad thing. Oh my God, I lost my baby. But a lot of times miscarriages happen because you have a baby that's about to come out fucked up.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Like I'm saying, the body's like, this baby got in a pussy. Like we probably should have let this out into the world.
But that would be enough? Like, would you abort your kid because they were gay? If you could tell while they were still in there?
But a hermaphrodite I would abort.
Why? You think it's that fucked up to be rolling around with a dick and a vagina?
Yeah, I think having two sexual organs,
I think
really kind of puts you in a separate place from the rest of society.
Yeah.
I think it'd be a very hard life.
Yeah.
It'd be a hard life to have a dick and a... In fact, I remember, because I remember at one point I had a company that would help people find jobs. It was a recruiting agency.
Right.
And there was a woman, a man... See, so I had this candidate who had gone to Harvard and was like super great on paper, but just would fail all the interviews that they did. So at one point I'm like, hey, let's just go meet up for lunch. And you couldn't really tell the gender. And I remember the name, her name, her name, I guess, was Caitlin. And basically, I'm like, he goes, yeah, I have X and Y chromosomes. And of course, that means he goes, well, I'm part girl as well. He goes, I've had a hard life. He said it just like that. He's like, I have girl. He said, I have girl in me.
There's something people just don't like about a guy that you can't really tell if it's 100% a guy or a girl that you can't really 100% tell. Like, there's just something innate in human beings that you feel uncomfortable when the line is blurred and you can't really tell what you're looking at.
Yeah, I mean, like one of the things that annoys me about the porn world right now is that when you're just going through regular porn, it just seems like trans porn gets mixed in.
This is on Pornhub?
Like Pornhub or like hot movies or whatever else. It just seems like trans porn seems to be mixed in with regular porn.
I honestly feel like the Pornhub algorithm is kind of fucked up right now because for the first time ever, when I scroll Pornhub, the feed just seems like it's just showing me like gay stuff mixed in with the straight stuff.
That's what I'm saying. I feel like porn is trying to push almost an agenda. You know what I'm saying? Hey, trans porn is cool. Like,
I'm very familiar with the mainstream porn world though, and like none of the mainstream porn companies are really doing anything with the trans stuff because it is so fringe. You know, it's like the same thing with like obese women. Like, you don't see browsers or Vixen doing anything with like a 400-pounder because that shit does have its audience for sure. I've met girls who are plus size that make a shitload of money and everything. Yeah. I've met them, had conversations with them. They're awesome, but you don't really see the mainstream porn companies embracing them because there are so many fetishes that you could embrace if you really wanted to as a porn company. But like the vast majority of them are just not that popular in comparison to just good old fashioned hot chicks, big wieners.
I feel you, man. I'm just saying. I've just noticed it over the last few years.
I got an observation. How about this?
All right, let's go.
Successful hip hop interviewers, weirdly into porn. I'm not going to say weirdly. I'm not going to put that on you, but at least into porn.
Right.
Bootleg Kev, super big porn fan.
Oh, is he?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I just did a show.
I'm just saying that's kind of interesting. That
is this the thread that kind of, you know?
I think Academics is probably Academics still. I remember to this day told me that when he wants to jerk off, he goes to Pornhub and searches like Chirac thotties and like hood rats and like shit like that. Like that's so his type.
Oh, really?
Which I think tells you a lot about him.
I mean, I've been around women that he's brought around.
Right, yeah. I've been around most of the girls that he's dated and shit too. But
yeah, we had dinner maybe about a month ago.
But at least porn-wise, Chirac thotties. He said that on my podcast the first time I ever had him on.
This was a thing.
I couldn't believe it. I've never even thought to search for a location.
Well, you know what's interesting in that world is cleaning up a little bit here for you.
That's that OCD.
I know, right?
That I've heard about.
There we go. The AI aspect of porn, I feel like hasn't happened at all yet, and when it happens, it's going to be like a nuclear bomb.
So, yeah, I've heard a lot of stuff about girls having like AI versions of them on Telegram and guys paying to basically like chat with this AI version of them. I mean, there's even girls.
That's not what I'm talking about.
Okay, there's this girl. Just to throw one other thing out there, there's this girl, Rochelle Ryan. You go to her Instagram right now. You scroll down a little bit, you're going to see a version of her that is like, you know, otherworldly hot. She's hot, but this is like crazy. And you'll realize like, oh, that's the AI version. I go to look at my Instagram, like she's got a whole business thing where you could like pay to talk to her AI clone or whatever the fuck it is. When I look at my Instagram Explore page, there's a lot of hot chicks that are AI.
They're AI now.
Shaking their asses for me. Yes.
And now you're looking at a girl going, real girl or AI girl?
It's tough to tell sometimes, yeah.
It's getting tough to tell. And think about like, so now you could have a scene and you could say, okay, I don't want Rachel Ryan in this scene. I want to put I don't know who's another big porn star right now.
Nicole Doshi. So I want to go Asian. Yeah. I want to get rid of this white girl and throw an Asian girl in there. Like, and suddenly you have a whole other human being in the same scene
and their body behaves the same way. Like, I feel like we're kind of close to that right now, aren't we?
For sure.
But at one point, it's just going to be just super simple. Like, okay, I could swap out anybody. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I want a white dude in this scene instead of a black guy. Like, boom.
My thing is, like, at some point, do women become obsolete if the AI gets like
That's what I'm saying.
good? Because
that's what I'm saying.
A lot of these AI chicks are just like a few degrees hotter than any girl I've ever seen do porn. They're like the hottest girl you ever seen, whoever, and like they're basically in the last year, couple years, they've gotten to the point where I almost can't tell when it's just a video of them sort of shaking their titties around on my Instagram Explore tab. 5 years from now, they're probably going to have the guy part of it done, the sex part of it done, like all this shit. And it's like at a certain point, is it going to be some programmer dude in Russia or some huge company or whatever making all this money, and all these OnlyFans girls all of a sudden see their income greatly diminished? Or is there something about the human element that'll keep people tethered to it? Because I'm forced to assume they are to some extent, or at least a lot of porn fans.
Well, until it's indecipherable. So for example, right? Diamonds right now are at 100-year low in terms of price, whereas gold just hit an all-time high. And you know why the diamonds are at an all-time low? Because the man-made diamonds.
Okay, yeah.
Man-made diamonds have become more and more cheap, and they've gotten to the point where the human eye cannot tell the two apart. You have to get an actual jeweler, put it under a microscope and say, this is the diamond, this is the lab grown. So it grows in a lab. It's a process.
Yeah.
Right? But the man-made ones don't really maintain their value. So if you spend $10,000 on man-made diamonds, some lab-made diamonds, you try to sell them a year later, you might only get $3,000, $2,000 for whatever. The diamonds do maintain their value, but the price has been going down. So it kind of gets to a point where if you can't tell it apart, the human element doesn't matter anymore. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
If you just simply can't decipher it, it won't matter.
I feel you, but I think at least part of the fantasy of why guys like porn stars is that they like to, like, part of the enjoyment is that they know that this girl is actually willing to do this, and that's not something you can get from AI. So I feel like there's still going to be, you know, a lot of guys who gravitate towards like real human beings, people that they feel like they can authenticate, but it also might be, you know, what if my girl could film 10 porn scenes by just running a fucking computer program, and, you know, she doesn't even have to do it. She doesn't even have to get out of bed. In theory, she could be the one controlling that content, although typically I would say a lot of that money tends to flow up towards the business owners and not the content creators, even though OnlyFans has kind of been a rejection of that in a way.
But I mean, it's just going to be when it's completely indecipherable. Like, I've looked at IG pages and it took me a second to realize it's not a real girl. And this is still early in the process, at the point where it's like, you can't tell it apart. You gotta sit there and decipher it and look at the backgrounds and look at the pixels, and, you know, because at first it's like, oh, okay, this girl has 6 fingers. This is AI. AI is picking up the 6 fingers here. There's this picture of like Trump with a whole bunch of black women. One of them had like 7 fingers.
They couldn't do the fingers for a while, but I feel like they're probably past that.
They're past the finger stage. Yeah, the fingers are cool now.
What's the coolest thing you've ever used AI for?
Nothing really cool, but I can say that I used to hire, you know, that writers, part of their full-time job was writing up summations of our clips, and now that's done through AI. And I found that out
a while back because I asked you, I go, Do you really have somebody sitting here writing these fucking YouTube descriptions for every clip?
Yeah, and I said
no,
yes.
AI.
Well, at one point, but for years it was yes.
Right.
Well, because I felt like, okay, well, there should be a write-up because that could possibly help the search algorithm or whatever else, right? But now it's like, the fuck is the point? So that was pretty cool. Other than that, really nothing. What about you?
I've had a few cool ones recently. Like there was this weird little piece of metal. You're trying to make me smoke. Yeah. I mean, you can tell I got overly high. I don't know why that just smacked. People see me smoke all the time on the No Jumper Show.
That's that Vlad TV strain, y'all. That Vlad TV strain.
Just having me going straight.
Coming
federal.
soon. I'm going to make that announcement
Donnie
soon.
wants to try it.
Oh, you want to try it?
No,
okay.
he just wants the lighter. Yeah. This is the weed expert right here.
Okay. All right. You dropped it. Party foul.
There was this like weird little like metal tag that me and Lena like had found in one of our pieces of luggage or whatever, and she was saying that she thought it was a security tag that so that you didn't shoplift the item or whatever.
Okay.
And I'm like, that doesn't make any sense because you could just take it out of the thing. Like, you know, like a security tag is always like bolted on there. Yeah. So if you want to remove it, you have to use pliers and shit like that. I've known people who did that shit over the years. And she disagreed with me. And like, you know, we were about to like give up on the conversation because there's just we weren't going to be able to figure it out. And then I just took a picture of it and gave it to ChatGPT, and it gave me so much information about this particular security tag because I was wrong. And that was just nice. Like, you know, there's a couple other ones recently that stood out to me where it's just like I'll see something and just be confused about it, and it's not like a question I can ask Google, but if I just upload the photo to ChatGPT, it'll just tell me everything about it.
Huh. Yeah, man, I'm looking forward to it. I think there's going to be some dope shit that comes from it.
Yeah, for sure. But I mean, there's something that just hurts you in your soul about
you get the light?
About AI too. Like
wait, hold on. How's the weed?
Oh, I'll let you try that one after.
Oh, okay. All right. Got it.
Like when you listen to a song on Twitter or whatever, and then you realize afterwards that you just listened to an AI song, that is such an upsetting feeling. Like I just invested so much effort and just I invested so much caring into listening to this Drake song, and then to find out that it wasn't actually him and that I've been hoodwinked, it's like deeply upsetting. Really,
I don't know if I've ever been fooled by a song. I mean, has there been a hit song done with AI yet?
The worst experience I had with it was the Kanye what was it, Like That remix. Somebody sent me the Kanye Like That remix while I was in New York for this like weed event or whatever last year. And we listened to it. I even played it for Math Hoffa and all of his co-hosts.
Okay.
They all said it was AI. Math was kind of on the fence, but like Mecca and Gat and them, like they were not going for it. You know, Mecca, he's just like super like laying the law down, just like super hardcore. He was like, nah, it's AI. This shit ain't real. Whatever. The next day I played it for a few other people and they started to be like, yeah, you know, this does seem real. And so like I fucking leaked it and John Monopoly hit me up right away and was just like, yo, like we want to put this on DSPs or whatever. He wasn't mad about it at all. But that was like a weird one because it's like I sat on the song for like over 24 hours because I thought that it might have been AI and I didn't want to look stupid by putting it out there.
But it was real.
It was real, yeah.
Okay.
But he mentioned Luciange in it. And apparently, according to Kanye, that's why Future and them never put it on DSPs because they don't want smoke with the most powerful Jews in the industry.
Yeah, I mean, you have to be first. There has to be a first for it to be normalized. So at the point that there's a hit song that's AI, and I think eventually that will happen, right? Then it's like that'll be taken seriously as a genre.
There are allegations that Playboi Carti used AI on his album for some of the songs. I think he denied it, but there's people making a very good case saying that it was used in that way. And yeah, I mean, that is a weird feeling too, because it's like, you know, we lost Juice WRLD. I would love to listen to more Juice WRLD music throughout my life, despite him being gone. But that the idea of listening to like the best version of it that AI and maybe like his fans working together could come up with, I don't know. Maybe I'm just old school, but I feel like I would just not even click play. Like I just wouldn't even try it But what if it was like heralded? Pitchfork's writing reviews about the fake Juice WRLD album, and I feel like I'm being left out by not listening to it because it's the songs are hits. They're on the radio. Like that could happen.
Yeah, well, you're not even choosing to listen to it. It's just being bombarded.
Yeah, you fall in love with it. All of a sudden, it's your favorite album, and you're like, "What the fuck is going on?" I'm being sucked into my dead friend's AI album because the music is that good. That could happen.
There's this guy named Ace Vane. He's like,
he's like,
you know about it, right?
Impersonations and shit. Yeah, he did one of Flacco, I think, or somebody from No Jumper that was so fucking funny.
Right, so he does these animations.
Yeah.
So he dropped this one video of me interviewing Trump. And a lot of times people take clips of my audio from my other interviews and sort of insert them and build like the fake video, the fake interview around it. So I thought that's what that was. But then I'm specifically talking about things in the video and I'm like, wait. I'm like, is this AI? And I called him. He's like, yeah. He's like, we kept modeling your voice until we got it. And I'm like, yo, I really thought this was me. And I listen to it's not like I don't listen to myself because I listen to myself when doing, titles and stuff. So I'm used to hearing my voice outside of my head. And I really thought it was me. So if you think about it, since I'm behind the camera, I could keep doing interviews when I'm not really there. You may have to sit there and say, did Vlad really do this one? Or was this Sean Prez? But, you know what I mean? Like, for example, look, like people, a lot of times people are like, yo, I go to Vlad TV to hear Vlad. I could literally have an army of interviewers and I could just make all of them be Vlad.
Really, you could do that while you're still alive and just save a ton of time.
That's what I'm saying. Although, while I'm still alive.
But a huge part of the interview is like being reactive. And it would be much harder to write an AI that was able to impersonate your personality.
Not an impersonation. Have someone else do the interview.
Okay.
And then just AI the voice.
Yeah. That could be possible.
So anyone could do it as long as they kind of understand.
Yeah.
Any Vlad TV fan could do it.
All right. So I was thinking about this the other day. It's like, if I die, I have a Snapchat account and we make a good amount of Snapchat, as do you guys, whatever. And like, but I have like my personal Snapchat monetized as well. And it's like, I have a company that helps me with it. So it's not me posting on there every day. Like I post a bunch of stuff, but then they're also posting their own stuff, whatever. If I die, why would they stop running this account and just giving the money to my family or whatever? Same thing with like, we got Facebook page. I've never looked at it. I know there's a ton of people watching No Jumper content on Facebook. All these things like are probably just going to continue to exist and be monetized. And like, why would I put a stop to them if I died? It could just be like best of type content, the same way that you'll see all these dead people who have Twitter accounts. Like there's just some guy from their like foundation or whatever that's like posting quotes from their books or their podcast appearances or whatever on Twitter. Why not? I mean, it is kind of weird because Twitter's not monetized, but for the monetized platforms, why not? And that's even without AI. The idea of using AI to create even more content using this person's likeness. I mean, it kind of reminds me of when Fulio got killed and his mom was like using the account.
Well, that was the mom that was posting?
I think it was the mom and that she had somebody else helping her out with it or whatever. But, they're getting brand deals from weed companies right after he dies and they're uploading them.
Really?
And it's like they're making a bunch of money for the family at a time when they need it, when the fucking kid just got killed. And it's like, in a way, it's super morbid and fucking strange, and they're just leaving comments using the Fulio account, etc. But then on another hand, it's like,
why not?
Why not? We live in this crazy new world.
I'm sure that Fulio would be okay with his mom doing that.
For sure.
You know, I mean, if he came back, let's just say to life, and said, hey, while you were gone, be like, oh, okay, that's cool. You want to use my account? My family wants to use my account? Make some money?
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, man, it's going to be an interesting world. We're not quite there yet, though. We're not quite there. It's still formulating, but but you're starting to see, like for example, I hope one day I could take all my life story interviews, like especially like the gangster interviews and so forth, and have AI just create a documentary out of it where everything is enacted.
Right. There's a lot of documentary editors out there who just heard that and are like, thanks, Vlad. We would have appreciated getting paid for that sort of content. But
Well, think about it.
But you could do that version of it as well. But it's kind of a cool idea to think that the AI could just do all the work.
Well, yeah, you'd be able to say, okay, here's an interview with Freeway Ricky Ross.
Mm-hmm.
Like here's my first Freeway Ricky interview where he kind of breaks down his whole life story. Make me a documentary, make me a movie where this story is laid out in a movie along with dialogue and so forth.
Yeah.
And they say, okay, cool. You see it, it's got a few good parts in it. Make me 100 more. Because it's just as easy as making that one.
Mm-hmm.
They'll just chug out 100 more and all of them will be unique.
Mm-hmm.
So you could say, okay, I want to take a piece from each of these and, boom, slap it together.
Mm-hmm.
Now you have a movie.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, think about yourself in comparison to like a 50 Cent. You both had the bright idea to make some content, but you went straight to YouTube primarily and made the content on there. You profit as a result. You've obviously built something great for yourself and everything like that. But when you look at 50, it's kind of like he had the same idea as you. Let's do content about BMF. You do the super raw, uncut, long form version of it where you just interview every person you can get your hands on who was involved with the BMF thing. Yeah. He does the super high end version of it where he creates this whole show for Showtime or whatever the fuck it was. When you look at that, does that sometimes like feel like maybe that would have been a good route? Or is that route still available? And do you have any kind of urge to maybe do something like that? Because that shit is super palatable in a way that like a 2-hour raw interview just isn't, and I sometimes think about that for myself as well.
Well, I mean, I have a deal with a production company where we're working on something with Vlad TV that's like a Netflix caliber type thing. But this type of thing, but it's not like, and it's about to come out. I've had these types of conversations and various deals like this over the years that ultimately didn't pan out. So it's not like I feel like, oh, this is the one. It's like, okay, if this comes together the way, with a dope product, then it could definitely fly. But the way that 50 did it took years to put together.
Yeah.
Right? Like he talked about how he put Little Meech in acting school. See what I'm saying? So it's like, okay, you have to first get the life rights to Big Meech and Southwest T, I believe.
Yeah.
Or one of them. I don't know how it works. And then you then have the son. So you get the son on board. Everyone's signing paperwork. People are signing off all types of rights. You're putting this person, you're probably, payrolling Lil Meech to be in acting school. You then have to find the right network that will work with you on this and get the writer and the director and and so forth and get the budget behind it and so forth.
Basically, it's good to be 50 Cent when you're doing all that shit.
Now, when you're 50, a lot of these things get fast tracked.
Exactly. Yeah,
of course,
for sure.
It's not getting fast tracked with me.
Yeah,
it's not getting fast tracked with you
from the ground up.
We have to prove because we don't have any TV experience. We don't have any experience selling 100 million records, and we're not celebrities on the caliber of a 50 that could promote things and so forth. So he had him being 50 and the ability probably to spend his own money in the beginning and so forth. And look, ultimately, I'm sure the majority of the money came from season 2, 3, 4. Like in the beginning, no one's really making any money. Not to say I know what his deal is that I don't, but I'm saying in the beginning, like everyone's doing it because once it gets into the multiple seasons, that's when the real money starts. That's when the bigger audience comes in and so forth. So, yeah, man, I mean, salute to what he's pulled off, but that's not really the way I like putting shit together. I like putting together content, and within a week, it's out there. It's out in the world. I don't like this whole multi-year preparation and stuff like that. It's just not really my style. And I understand you can create really dope shit doing that. It's just not my thing.
Even like doing more high production quality stuff, like when we did the reality show where the guys competed to bang my wife or whatever. That was just like 3 days. I think it was only 2 days to make 4 episodes. And yeah, they got like 1 million views each. They did quite well. But dude, it's so torturous just being on those sets and just having to deal with that and just having to just be on other people's time, and it takes them forever to set the shit up. I'm just so conditioned to showing up and doing a 2-hour podcast and then just going home, and then boom, I get to put the 2-hour piece of content out, and I read the comments and I look at how many likes it got, and it feels good. And I know a lot of people have those like big, ambitious, high production dreams, but at the same time, I don't know, it just feels like this is kind of just like where I'm at, what I'm good at. And it's like, I guess I could imagine taking on something that's like a bigger idea, but I don't really see myself putting in the work required.
Sometimes it's not even the work. Sometimes it's just, like we were supposed to have a 20 versus 1.
Right.
With an NBA player.
And I know that fell through, right?
The whole thing fell through. He told us, I think the morning of, he doesn't want to do it.
Wow, man.
Girls were coming. We had catering. We had security. Mm-hmm. We had people, that were going to be working on the weekend. And it was just like, the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to say who it is. Y'all can figure out who's been on Vlad TV, who's playing the NBA, and y'all can come to your own conclusions. But I'm just saying, and like, I paid him. He hasn't paid me back yet. Like, you see, it's just a bunch of shit. Like, that's just really just disappointing. And you're like, man, I'm going back to my production. I know my crew. One person shows up. I know how to conduct this interview. I know it'll do numbers. Like, I know, especially, if it's this person, I know how to kind of formulate it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I interviewed Lou Diamond Phillips recently.
I saw that.
The actor.
Yeah.
I interviewed Stephen Baldwin recently. Some of that's like that's just like dope to me.
How are you getting those kind of things from outside your usual network?
We started working with this one company that kind of specializes in that type of thing.
Okay.
Swerve Strickland, the wrestler. We just interviewed him.
Nice.
That's about to come out. So yeah. You just try to, that's the whole thing of the Vlad TV YouTube masterclass. Because, there's really, like, getting guests is really an ongoing process that sometimes spans years. I've had guests that it took me, like me and Michael Rappaport, I think I was talking to him for like 5 years or something by the time he did the first interview.
When did he first do it?
The first interview was like maybe, I don't know, 5 years ago or something.
Oh, I had no idea that was his first interview. I think I just assumed that he had done a lot over the years.
Nah. Yeah. He did another one maybe like last year sometime.
Yeah.
Like 6 months ago.
Right.
But that first one, yeah, it took, we had each other's phone numbers and we were talking about it for year after year after year after year.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Just to go back to the 20 versus 1 thing, you know what?
Yeah.
What we fucked up? We thought everybody's doing 20 versus 1s. We got to do this from the Plug Talk perspective. So we did a couple different episodes. One of them was with Adriana Chechik, who obviously is like a huge name in the porn industry and everything. And we thought it made so much sense. We're going to get a girl. And the other two we did were like more just like cute Instagram chicks, whatever. But it turns out nobody gives a f if it's just a bunch of dudes talking to a girl. It has to be
girls,
a bunch of girls talking to a dude, because we had like, high-end chicks, like really hot chicks, and nobody gives a f. So much of it is from the male perspective, because the audience is 90% male, and they just want to like basically view the world through the perspective of a popular lit rich rapper or whatever, Boosie, Vonov 1700, Woody, whatever, whoever it is this week, and they just want to like see the way girls engage with these dudes, which I think it also like just plays into the curiosity that a lot of guys have of like what it is like to be a more high value male than they are. Like they want to know what it's like to be a rapper and to be able to not give a fuck about the 20 girls that are standing in front of you, which is typically the vibe.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's being a public figure of any kind sort of changes the dynamics. I think changes the confidence level of men. You see what I'm saying? Like, yeah, being Vlad the computer programmer was definitely a lot of anxiety around women. Now I feel like I don't really have that.
Right. Same thing.
Yeah.
When I was in my mid-20s or whatever, a lot of, you want to get chicks, you want to figure out how you can get the most high quality chicks possible, but you know you need to work on yourself. You know you haven't really like proven yourself business-wise or whatever. There's just like such a vote of confidence that being like high profile and like, you know, well known on the internet at least, that like it'll give you in terms of like it just being like verification that you're a high quality mate prospect for women.
I was thinking about this the other day. I have a question for you. I was actually going to ask you next time you came on Vlad TV, but I think this is an interesting question here.
Oh, yeah.
So you and your wife have always had a situation where threesomes are allowed on camera, as well as you doing porn scenes on your own, right?
A little bit.
A little bit.
I've really only done porn on my own when it was like required. Like she was recovering from a surgery.
Yeah, she was
and,
sick, whatever.
You know,
yeah,
she was
blah,
sick,
blah.
yeah.
Okay. So, and that's worked great for you guys. Tomorrow morning, you guys wake up, she looks at you and she says, "This was fun. Moving forward, I only want a monogamous relationship." How would you react to that?
She has raised this question before.
Oh, so this is not
so
new. This is not new territory that we're exploring here.
No, I mean,
that was the best reaction ever.
It probably is new territory for like on camera, but I mean, honestly, would that be a little bit of an adjustment for sure? But yeah, ultimately, I feel like, you know what, I've made my choice with this chick. I'm riding it out. You know, it's just like I feel so like just connected to her that I can't really imagine myself wanting to switch shit up over, or wanting to end it over something like that's that frivolous. As you know, I also just like I've just had so much sex the past few years in particular that it just doesn't really seem that intriguing. Now, were I to not fuck any new chicks for a year, would it maybe be a little bit more intriguing? Sure, probably. But I also just feel like I'm so much more attracted to my wife than the average girl that we work with that I don't know. And maybe that's partially just like the built up emotional connection and everything. Obviously, that's going to make you feel more attracted to somebody. But I don't know. I mean, just like I'm a lot less intrigued by new pussy than I might have been at one point in my life.
Great answer.
A little burnt out.
Yeah, it's a great answer. I'm sure I'm sure she's going to watch this and be like, "All right,
see about that, buddy." No, but I do think that me and her probably like, if we weren't doing porn all the time, we would probably be doing a little bit more explorative sexual shit in our free time. But I feel like it's very common in the porn world that you get people who are like swingers, they're in the lifestyle or whatever, and then they get into porn, and then now they're not swinging and they're not in the lifestyle anymore because they just like get all their shit out of their system on camera. You know, it's just kind of, it scratches that itch to the point where people don't really like I know a million dudes, not a million, but I've had a lot of conversations with dudes where they were the bull who's getting flown out by some couple in Mississippi where the guy wants to watch this big ass black dude bang his wife.
So that's really a thing?
Oh yeah, that's a whole thing.
Where does this come? Okay,
but I was gonna say those guys then become porn stars and then they never do shit like that again. Yeah.
What is the like? What is the appeal of watching a dude be a woman? What is that about? That's never been something that's ever really just entered my head.
I mean, probably not something.
And you know something? Now that I think about it, you've actually done it.
Yeah, of course.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. I figured that was implied within that question.
I wasn't thinking about that. I wasn't. No. It kind of. Yeah. Sorry. I'm high right now.
Honestly, there's something that I want you to watch off camera. It's this new porn brand called Wifey that I think Vixen created it, and it's basically like a super high quality porn that is based around the hot wifing experience, which to them is separate from the cuck experience, because like a cuck wants to basically like be humiliated while watching the guy fuck his girl. Hot wifing is more of like a respectful type thing where, and I probably am fucking this up because it's probably more complicated than that, but like where like the guy is treated with respect, but he also wants to see his wife get fucked by a guy who presumably is physically dominant over him or whatever. But yo, let me tell you the craziest shit the other day. We shoot a plug talk scene with this girl, super hot. She's got a guy with her, super fat, no shots, but he's a big ass fat dude, right? And so I'm not even thinking that this is her boyfriend, but you know, I go on to figure that out, and she's talking at length in the interview about how he's a cuck and how he's super down, like he loves it. And so we were looking at her content that night, just like looking at her website or whatever, and she does videos where big ass dudes will be fucking the shit out of her, and this fool is just sitting there on the couch in the video right next to it. And then there's even one where she's bent over, this dude's banging her from behind, and the boyfriend is laying with his head right under her vagina while this fucking dude is banging her out. And he's just, this is his thing. He just loves it.
Do they ever?
I mean, I would assume probably. You know, they probably got something going on. They got some kind of arrangement.
Or is that all he's getting?
I mean, I would assume he's hitting it as well, but I mean,
is he though?
I don't know.
Is he though?
Either way, I feel like a lot of dudes just like, okay, I understand how my wife enjoys watching me fuck another girl.
Yeah.
She likes seeing me get pleasure, and she's confident enough in our relationship that if there's some girl giving me crazy head, she can look at that and I can see it in her eyes that she's enjoying watching me have pleasure sexually, even if she's not the one directly administrating it. And I understand how guys could be open-minded enough, I guess, to
do the same,
to appreciate that. Even though myself, it's always been like such a mixed thing. Like, I watched the Jason Love scene with her, and I kind of enjoyed watching it, but then I kind of also like didn't want to see it. It was like I had such mixed feelings about it. But then I can say that the times that that me and another dude have banged my wife on camera together, I was all in. No problem at all. Like, it was a great time. Didn't have any kind of qualms about it. But yeah, I was kind of surprised how like into it I got, because I never really like saw myself doing that. But then when it actually came time to do it on camera, I was like, okay, yeah, this is cool.
Like the Kanye cuck stories, are those true?
What are those?
So apparently the girl that you guys used to manage,
Sky Bree.
Yeah, I guess did something where she said that Kanye had reached out to her to get like the most endowed porn star she knew to have sex with his wife.
Wow, I didn't know that. That's crazy. I know she signed an NDA with him at one point and then never actually hung out with him. But I didn't know that she said that. But yeah, there's like this one.
I think that's what she said.
There's one dude, Dread. I interviewed Dread, who's basically the biggest gunslinger in the game these days.
Okay.
Yeah, and super nice guy. Actually, kind of bizarre how so many of the dudes with the biggest dicks are just like the most chill, laid back. Yeah, bro. Like, they're just super laid back, chill, nice, friendly guys. It's kind of bizarre.
A lot of male porn star friends over the years. Yeah, they're always just chilling. Like, yo,
yeah,
I'm fucking. I don't have any sexual pent up. You know, what do you call the dudes who don't who can't have sex? Incels.
Incels, right?
Yeah, it's like the opposite of being an incel, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of aggression to be had when you're not getting laid. If you're oversexed, it's kind of easy to be sort of laid back, you know. A lot of guys, like, that's like the explanation for their aggression or their like moody demeanor is like the fact that they either have to work a little too hard for sex, or they're like sort of deep down unhappy with their sexual situation, I would assume.
I feel like this is me being, I'm sure this is going to be viewed as racist, but this is like my actual, what I have always seen growing up in the Bay Area. You always have relatively attractive Asian women with really fucked up looking white dudes. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like if it was not for these Asian women, these guys would like shot up some schools and some shit like that. You know what I'm saying? Like really done some up shit. And these women have saved them in terms of letting them loose on society.
Yeah, they're caretakers. They're level-headed, reasonable. An Asian woman comes into a man's life and gives him a sense of order that he's probably just not going to get from another white woman who's been raised to be, you know, somewhere on the gender feminist spectrum or whatever. I think a lot of these white guys kind of enjoy a little bit more. Like I can say I appreciate that with the Armenian woman. That was kind of like the main thing I noticed early on. It's like, oh, she's very down to serve and be the woman, you know, in a way that like a lot of the girls that I was around when I was younger, just, you know, they kind of just get their head up their ass and they want to just be doing their own thing or whatever. Like to be in a relationship with somebody who wanted to settle down and have kids was kind of shocking to me because I was just hanging out with all these fucking bar hounds who just, you know, they want nothing in life but to get fucking thrashed and snort coke. And is bar hound a word? I mean, a lot of people know what I mean. That type.
No, man, just the visual of that. Just I'll do like a Saint Bernard, like, you know, like big floppy ears and shit. Like,
I mean, many times over the years,
and shit,
I would meet a girl from the bar, and they'd be, you know, super hot, nice personality when you're also drunk, and then like I would get their number, or we would end up going back to the house and fucking some night or whatever, and it would kind of start to come upon me in my head like, fuck, like maybe I could like see this girl or like date her or whatever, and I'd try to hang out with them like on a Monday night where we weren't drinking, and they were just like so uncomfortable and weird, and like at the first opportunity they want to get drunk, and that's when I realized like, oh, a lot of these girls that you meet at the bar are like full-blown alcoholics, like they could barely even function without alcohol. Which was kind of weird for me. I was more of like a casual drinker, you know.
I've never really been a drinker.
Ugh.
Yeah, just never really. You know, I'll drink when I feel like it's almost a requirement.
Right. Yeah.
Like, you know, like an industry party, like you know, open bar, everybody's drinking, I'm going to drink.
A lot of times in those situations, still though, I won't drink, and it's its own challenge because it's just so much harder to like mingle with like a shitload of people when you're sober, like full blown sober.
Yeah, that's true.
It's just like. It's its own thing. And then all of a sudden it's 2 a.m. and it's like, why am I not in bed? Like, what the f am I doing? This is insane. Like, it's so hard for me to still be like coherent at 2 a.m, especially if I've been smoking. I don't know. But yeah, okay. What's your take on, I have so many questions that we didn't talk about because we've just been talking about so much random bullshit, which is great. I love it. But so many of these just sound like interview questions, which I'm trying to avoid. But I did see that you were critical of me platforming Orlando Brown.
Yeah.
Totally understand where you're coming from.
Yeah.
Explain that position. Why is Orlando Brown someone that is not worthy of being platformed?
I mean, you know, he's not saying like, you know, like this is not a sane person. Like, when you turn off the camera, the act like doesn't stop, right?
I don't know. I did see him show up and he seemed sober that day, but then he just starts drinking, and then he's like a completely different person.
Yo, like Orlando's crazy in real life.
Yeah.
Like it took, because we did one interview with him and it went like viral. I didn't do the interview.
Okay.
So I'm like, all right, I'm going to do the next one because this one's like doing crazy numbers and this seemed like he's an interesting character. I did the interview in person, and I'm like, okay, he's really crazy in real life. Like he like the crew he came with.
Really?
Yo, it was. Listen, it was a lot going on, but I'm just saying, like after that, I said, all right, like to keep putting him on, I'm taking advantage of like a mentally disabled person, pretty much. Like that's how I view it. So that's why I was like, yeah, like. If I was Adam, I wouldn't have put him on. Not in any sort of mean way. And I understand, like, he's trying to make his way and trying to make money and whatever else. It's just like, and you've seen the train wrecks along the way where he'll just be wandering the streets, like, with one shoe on. And you know what I'm saying?
Lush
like,
said that he used to sell meth to Orlando Brown and that they smoked meth together.
Right. I mean, like you dealing with a meth head, like that's. I mean,
well, Lefty Gunplay's a meth head.
Is he?
Well, they caught him with meth in Texas.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Lefty also is a musician that's putting out projects. I mean, he's on Kendrick's album.
Yep.
Right?
4 words.
Hey man, he's still
pretty good.
Still on a great song.
Still very good.
Hey man, come on. Like, you can't. Wack brought that up too. I'm like, come on. Like no one. Even if you hate the guy, you got to give him credit for being on that song.
No, I mean, I think that me and Wack have kind of agreed that his music sucks. He sucks at rapping at this point. You know, that could change in the future. But that was why I think it was so hilarious to us that he only got 4 words on the album, because everybody else who was featured on the album got, you know, full verses.
Right. And
I feel like when I realized Lefty was on the album, I rushed to hear it because I just couldn't imagine someone that bad at rapping with Kendrick, someone that good at rapping. And now I've been trying to, honestly, like, I don't want to like inflame and encourage the whole Lefty beef saga, because I never wanted to not get along with the guy in the first place. He just started talking shit right after I did the interview, and I felt like I had to fight back. I'm not like Wack, where I feel like Wack, that Lefty's one person he seems like he's down to just war with forever. Right. I mean, he did get.
I mean, I did an interview with him.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
saw a few clips.
Yeah, I mean, look. Think about this. Think about how many people, because okay, I remember Lefty was like, "Yo, I was just in the studio with Kendrick." They were like, "Yo, but he signed an NDA, so don't mention it."
Yeah,
right. I remember
same thing here. I heard that from somebody else.
I remember at one point I said, I remember I made a tweet and I was like, "You won't believe who Kendrick was in the studio with." Yeah. That was like front page on Reddit, and they were like, "Yo, bro, can you take that down?" Like, they're like,
"Really?"
Yeah, they're like, "Yo, this might fuck up our shit." I'm like, "Okay, no problem. I'll just take down a tweet," even though I never said,
"Yeah,
Lefty." Right, but think about this. When you think about how he only got 4 words, think about all the different artists that came through that studio and laid down verses and choruses and whatever else that Kendrick just scrapped.
But we don't know that there was anybody aside. Like, there's no other like underground LA rappers that are like, "Damn, I showed up and I didn't get my fucking verse on the project." It seems like everybody he called in for that album got their shine. Now, I'm sure that he did a million songs with Schoolboy Q and all these other fucking people that he's probably recorded all kinds of stuff with.
I don't know. I think you sign an NDA. I mean, think about it, right? Like, yeah, okay, some people could be like, "Yeah, I went to Kendrick, he didn't use my shit." But then other people would be like, "I went to the studio with Kendrick. We actually met up. I laid down some shit. We talked, whatever else. I signed an NDA. And he didn't use this, but he might call me up and do some other shit." You know what I'm saying? Now I'm establishing a relationship. I'm not just going to jump out the window for a couple minutes of clout and fuck that up.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? I bet you a lot of people came to that studio and he chose that. And he chose those 4 words, which I think kind of add to the song.
It's just, if you could hear, you know, the 16 bars that preceded those 4 words or came after, I don't know at what point in the verse, it's just like, Lefty just got to learn to rap at some point. Like, his flow is just all over the place. And I don't know why. I subscribed to his YouTube channel like very early on when I interviewed him. And so every time he drops something, I see it. And every single time I click it, and I'm just wondering, like, is he going to rap good on this shit? And every time his shit is just offbeat, weird, doing all this different shit. And I feel like he's such a star, but he really hasn't made like almost any songs that have really like made an impact. I know he's got songs with millions of views and stuff. I just feel like, you know, his career is going to be kind of short-lived if he doesn't figure out how to actually rap better. And I also feel like if he keeps getting arrested, that's going to be a problem, because he got that meth thing in Texas. He just got picked up for a 2023 gun case out here at Rolling Loud.
Rolling Loud before his performance, he got picked up.
Yeah, that was like a gun case or some shit. I don't know if they just caught him riding around with it, but, you know, he's a felon, so getting caught with a gun, pretty big deal. We'll see what happens with that.
Hey man, listen. I think you're given an opportunity, and I think most people will take it seriously. And that means stepping up on the rapping. You know, coming. You know, you see your views going down. But I feel like a lot of times it's just like, man, it doesn't really matter how good or bad you rap. Like, look at the new Cardi album. Like,
but Cardi's like,
it's like all over the place.
He's like on beat at least. Like Lefty just sounds like he's listening to a different instrumental when he's rapping. And I feel like it's just like Cardi is trying to do so little, but he succeeds at what he's doing.
Yeah,
Lefty is trying to rap as if he's like a virtuoso, and then when it actually comes out, it just sounds like vomit.
Look, man, he got his own style, you know. And at the end of the day, he's got fans behind the shit. He's showed up on Kendrick shit. He was supposed to perform at Rolling Loud.
Yeah.
Think about how. Is there any other Mexican rapper that was performing at Rolling Loud outside of him?
Drex the Joint. I think he was there.
Okay.
Who? Devour. Okay.
All right. So he's part of a very small group.
Very small group, for sure. Right? Why do you think black people make such better music than Mexican people in the rap game?
I don't agree.
You don't agree?
I feel like
very few Hispanic
one of my you know, well, okay, let's think about it.
And we could throw white people in there too. We seem like we're the worst at it.
Well, when you think about some of my all-time favorite rappers, I said this on Bootleg Kev's show, is Be Real from Cypress Hill.
For sure. Be Real is a good.
All-time favorite, period. Across black, white, Mexican, just hip-hop, period. Be Real is one of my all-time favorite rappers.
I fuck with Be Real, but my top 10, for sure, all brothers.
Okay. So Eminem is not in your top 10?
No way.
Really? Eminem?
I respect the shit out of Eminem and everything, and I have listened to him a lot.
Okay.
Back in high school and shit, but realistically, he ain't scratching.
Big Pun is not in your top 10?
No way.
Skill wise, Big Pun? Big Pun.
You want to talk about who's the greatest skilled lyricist of all time? Sure. I mean, you probably got to put both of them in there or whatever, but I'm talking about like rap, my top 10 of rappers who have mattered to me throughout my life.
Okay, right. So you're going to throw the XXXTentacion's in there, the Juice WRLD's in there.
Rest in peace to them, but no.
No?
I mean, in terms of like what I've listened to the most, and like that, I mean, Juice WRLD for sure, definitely Juice WRLD I listened to a lot of in my life. X, I fucked with him so much, and I thought he was a genius, but it wasn't necessarily like my thing. Outside a lot of the early stuff, a lot of the sing-songy stuff later on didn't really necessarily do it for me. I told him this ain't really my bag, but I fuck with you as a person, but this it's a little outside of my area of interest. But, you know, obviously then I see Kylie Jenner posting sad on her Snapchat story and I'm like, oh, okay. Maybe he's onto something. And then obviously it became one of the biggest.
So who are in your top 10?
I mean, I'll probably start with like Tupac, Jay, Nas, 50, Cameron. A big part of me wants to put Young Thug in there just because he's been so important to me as a rap fan. I'll put Chief Keef in there if we're going top 10.
Okay.
I'd be tempted to put Jadakiss in there. I don't want to like miss. Oh, Gucci. If we're doing top 10, Gucci got to go in there. I don't want to miss any like eras in my life. But it's probably something like that. But it's definitely more people that I'm forgetting. But yeah, for sure, I'm not putting Eminem in there. No offense, love you, Em, but
I'd put Eminem in my top 10.
I stopped listening to him after like high school, like the Slim Shady show, White America.
Well, I was up on Eminem before Dr. Dre found him.
Yeah, I feel you. So I was in like 8th grade when his Aftermath debut dropped.
I purchased the Slim Shady EP, which he put out independently through Sandbox Automatic, which was a website where you could buy like underground vinyl and CDs or whatever else. And I just remember listening to it going like, this guy's brilliant. Like what he's doing, like there is a song about him killing his baby mother and getting rid of the body. Right. With his daughter in the car with him the whole time. Like, and just the craziness around it. And it's like nobody else was doing that. Like nobody in hip hop was talking about this type of shit. But think about it. Like, I'm sure there's lots of men in hip hop already that had all types of crazy drama with their kids' mothers.
Yeah.
But no one rapped about it like that,
Mm.
you know, until Eminem did it. I just felt like, yeah, just skill level. He was just sort of better than everyone else.
It was like, I feel like that was also still very much a time where you needed a cosign. And obviously Dr. Dre is about the biggest cosign you can get at that time. And then he's unbelievably skilled as a lyricist, but then he's also got an incredibly strong narrative. He's doing great song, storytelling and like conceptually and everything. And then, you know, he made a bunch of hit records too. But I guess that's part of my problem with him too, is like, hi, my name is, my least favorite hip hop song of all time. I hate that song. Every time I hear it, it pains me until the song is done. I hate it. And the fact that he used that as the debut single on his most recent project, I found deeply upsetting. That song is like nails on the chalkboard to me. And I don't know if anybody else agrees with me.
Well, I never really liked that song.
I hate it with all my heart.
No, I've never, but then again, once again, I was already listening. I heard some of that album because the Slim Shady LP took a bunch of songs that were already on the EP. Not all of them, but a few of them made it onto the final product. So I heard some of the songs before. So by the time that came out, I'm like, oh, okay, this is like kind of the warm-up single, but like I know that he has better shit. So yeah, I mean, listen, at the end of the day, so you and I are both right.
Yeah,
you know,
it's just preference.
We're both right.
Yeah.
And I put it in my top 10. I think it'd be insincere if I didn't.
I guess Drake probably deserves a place in my top 10. Even though my problem with Drake has always been that I just don't.
You got a white guy on your list.
Well,
there you go.
Yeah, no, I don't. He's still a brother to me. He's half. It's good enough. But my whole thing is I don't like half Drake's music because it's just too soft for me. Like I could go for like a little bit of R&B, sorta, but I need it to be like a little bit more up tempo. All that super slow shit just does not do it for me. So it's like my favorite Drake album is if you're reading this, it's too late or whatever. The one with the like handwritten shit.
That's actually my favorite Drake album.
That's my favorite album because when I listen to it, it's just like 10 songs in a row of just like self-empowerment, confidence boosting. Like I could actually be in like a very dark place, and that would probably be the album I would think of to like yank me out of that.
Okay,
it's all just like pure energy, confidence music in a way that I just like, and then I went and saw Drake live, and like he spends like the first 20 minutes just playing a ton of slow jams. And it's like, my girl don't like that shit either. So it's like kind of a letdown for us, even though I know that's a lot of people's favorite Drake music, but I guess that's part of his brilliance is that he's got such a big audience because he can hit on so many different markets.
Well, the new album, what's the song? Hold on a second.
How do you like that album overall?
I like some of the joints on there. I think
like the singles. Like
hold on.
The Give Me a Hug one, the Nokia one. Those are like the really popular ones are like the ones I like.
Die Trying, because me and Party Next Door, we DM sometimes. So I hit him up. I say, yo, this album's been on repeat, and Die Trying, that's my shit. He responded. But that song I think is brilliant.
Okay.
That song, there's a couple songs on there. I think what he did is interesting because it's like, while you doing all this beef, whatever shit, I'm gonna go back to my girl music.
Right.
And just do a total girl album. Because it's like, it's easy in a situation like this to get out of your character and suddenly make music to Kendrick instead of to your audience. And I think that's kind of what Ja Rule was doing when him and 50 were going at it. He suddenly felt like he had to make music to 50 as opposed to saying, my biggest hits is like Always on Time. I call this beef shit. Like I didn't make any money doing this beef shit. Like I'm a mega star because of these huge girl songs, pop songs, whatever. I'm doing shit with Jennifer Lopez and whatever. This 50 shit.
Still feels like on that project you didn't really end up with like a bunch of hits off it though, right?
What do you mean?
The Drake album? I mean, I'm sure it's done well and everything, but I don't feel like any one song really like jumped out and became the forerunner. Which I feel like that's part of what he really needs is just like a massive song right now would just really help to speed up time and get us past all of the bullshit that he sort of dealt with this year.
I mean, Party Next Door has never really been a big, you know, as that really had big songs that ever got to the top of the charts like that.
Mm-hmm.
This is the first time it's ever happening. That's
right.
Drake. And Drake has done songs with him. So think about that. So I think it's like, I don't know, I almost feel like Drake did it because it's like, all right, well, I'm going to throw it out there. If it doesn't do huge numbers, I'm going to say, well, that's because it's me and Party Next Door. Not just because it's me.
Right.
So it's almost like a warm-up just to see what the temperature is. And then when he drops his solo album, that's when we're going to see whether Drake has exceeded, you know, where we thought he was, or whether he's on a decline.
Right. Yeah, that will be interesting. Okay, I got to piss like a racehorse. We did about 3 hours. Seems pretty good. Yeah.
All right.
Very good episode. Great talking to you as usual.
For the first time.
We smoked. You smoked a lot more than me. I got a little bit over high there.
Hey, so this is, I'm not gonna say what this is yet, but I got my own strain. You know what I'm saying? And this is King Louis.
Yeah.
This is a King Louis strain.
Put Vlad in a blunt.
But Vlad on a blunt and a joint. This will be in 7 different states. And you see how this is affected. You see how Adam's been affected off just a couple of puffs. Like, I feel like you're still high.
Oh yeah. I feel like you put meth in there. I used to smoke coke blunts.
Really?
I mean, not all the time, but like here and there, yeah.
I've never tried cocaine.
Oh yeah?
In my life. I can honestly say this.
Some people will tell you they're smoking a blunt with cocaine and it doesn't do anything, but I have had the experience of smoking blunts with coke and I've been feeling out of my goddamn mind afterwards. I remember like finding one in our house and then being so excited we found this blunt and then we started smoking it and one of our homies is just like, bro, this shit chewy. There's coke in there. And I'm like, what? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, Beastie Boys used to rap about that.
Yeah.
Blunts with coke.
Famous hip-hop blog back from the blog era, Cocaine Blunts.
Yeah, went to the bathroom, rolled myself a woola. A woola is a blunt with coke in it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I've never tried. I had one of my friends overdose and die. He was 23.
No, yeah, stay far away.
So I just said, I'm not going to try this.
Right.
So whenever, I've had it, like last year, someone offered me some. That was wild in Atlanta.
Yeah.
Like, yo, Vlad, you want some coke? A couple of randoms.
It ain't worth it.
I said, sure. Nah, I'm good.
Yeah, nah, definitely don't want to try. You don't want to play with your heart, dude. And especially these days, I mean, doing coke felt kind of chill back in the day because you just weren't going to get served anything besides coke. Now with all the fent and shit, I'd be terrified to do coke. Like I ain't done it since New Year's going into 2019.
Oh,
so I'm like 6 years that I haven't done coke, which is a weird feeling.
I've interviewed 5 people who died from overdoses.
Oh shit, really?
How many people do you think you've interviewed?
Probably more, but
so me and you have some in common. So Aaron Carter.
Yeah.
And all this is fentanyl, by the way.
Yeah.
I believe all this is fentanyl. So Aaron Carter, Gangsta Boo.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I did Mac Miller.
I didn't do that, yeah.
I did Coolio.
Okay. Not me.
One more. Rich Homie Quan.
Yep, Rich Homie Quan. I interviewed.
We have three people you interviewed so far died from from fentanyl overdoses.
Definitely. Lil Peep.
Lil Peep, yeah, I never.
And that was a fentanyl Xan too.
It was a fentanyl Xan.
Yeah,
that's a thing.
Well, yeah, they make Xans and they use fentanyl as one of the ingredients, and I think it had too much or something.
Shit.
There's definitely more from that whole SoundCloud era and shit. Oh my god, I feel like everybody was dying for a while, but I can't even. Nobody comes to mind immediately, but I don't know.
Sad, man.
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace, man. I'm
Stay
just
off
saying,
drugs,
stay off that bullshit, man. Like, like whenever I see someone dying, like think about it, like a lot of these guys are like in their 30s.
Yeah.
Relatively young. Yeah, Quan was like what? Early 30s?
People think rappers exaggerate how much drugs they're doing, but in reality, a lot of rappers have like heavy perk, Xan, lean consumption to the point where like it's sometimes just shocking to me when I'm around dudes for a long enough period of time. They'll get a little bit of like a window into how much drugs they're doing, dude. That shit is unsustainable.
Yeah, Lil Baby in our interview was saying how Juice WRLD, he found out how much he was taking, and it was an insane amount.
Oh yeah.
So the overdose wasn't like a shock
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, he definitely, like, I kind of separated myself because it was just not fun or cool to be around at a certain point. Like, I think everybody like wanted him to get better so bad, but yeah, he just had such an appetite for drugs, dude. He was just going fucking wild.
So you would be around him and he's just constantly taking drugs?
Not constantly, but it was almost always at least a conversation because he was such like a talker that he would just kind of fill you in. Even me as a person who's like not really doing drugs at that point in my life, I'm like, he's just kind of telling me shit about what he's getting into or whatever. He was just he liked it too much. And but he was like that since super young in high school and shit. He was into all that. And I mean, even when he died, he was like 21, 20 or something. Yeah. He was so young. It was like such a tragedy.
Yeah, man. Rest in peace. I never got to meet him. I was a fan though.
No, yeah. He was the GOAT. All right, Vlad, I appreciate you so much.
No doubt.
Thank you for coming on.
Yep.
Go get the Vlad masterclass by becoming a member on his platform.
Yeah. So once again, the Vlad TV YouTube masterclass. It's $100 a month, but this is where you actually get the real serious inside information about how you launch and grow a YouTube channel from someone who runs a multi-million-dollar a year YouTube business.
Yeah.
And I've been doing it for, the majority of my 17-year YouTube career, and continue to do it. And once again, and we got to do an episode with you about how you built up No Jumper.
Sure.
But we did it with a bunch of different people, and like I said, subscribe. That's what it is.
I'm going to subscribe. I'm going to watch all the videos, and then and only then will I be able to decide if I still feel like there's value to be had in terms of me making one. So I'm still thinking about it, but I definitely respect the fact that you actually went through with it.
Yeah, well, I was on the fence, and now it's like when I think about it, I'm not quite sure if I made the right first decision, but the other idea was to do a $50 a month stock members only page.
Okay.
And just focus on stock investing, where I would essentially show my portfolio and what I've invested in, and show and break down what I did year after year, and then start giving, my thoughts on what I think is happening and what I would do in these types of situations.
I would personally be very interested in that, but I feel like the creator content probably makes a lot more sense for your niche.
See, I just felt like I'm better on the YouTube side than on the stock side.
Exactly. Yeah, you're an expert.
I'm an expert on YouTube. I'm just another guy that's done well stock investing, but I'm not an expert on the stock investing side. I've done well.
Yeah.
But then again, there's also, I think, more people that want to invest in stocks and start a YouTube channel.
Yeah. And starting a YouTube channel is kind of like that's why when I thought about mine, I was very much thinking about making it for all kinds of content creators, or if you wanted to be like a sort of solo streamer in front of the camera, kind of guide it towards that sort of thing as well in addition. But yeah.
Well, I got I got to give him props because the lead attorney, he does a lot of streaming shit, and he has a set of classes that focus on streaming.
That's smart.
And that's who really, me and him had a long conversation. And that's who really got me to like, okay, I'm really going to do it. And then I did it. Who's that? Oh, shit.
What up?
That's my two favorite people. Hey.
What up?
Hey, I just said, first of all, I just interviewed Ye.
You did it?
We were just talking about if you did it or not. Nice.
Yo, congrats.
It definitely cannot be on YouTube, but I'll give you all the details. Hey, check this out. I'm coming up there for Adam and Wack show, so I'm only calling to make sure Adam, you got to close the back door. Okay?
Oh, yeah. Don't worry. I got you. I'm not going to have Dom is live waiting for you.
Yo, I'm coming back to No Jump. It's the first time in like 6 years. Yo, Vlad, what's up, man? I miss you, bro. You going to be around?
Oh, yeah. I can stick around.
Yeah, if you stick around, I'm about to get in the car.
Oh, shit. Because we're supposed to have, because it's what is it? It's 3:15 right now. We're supposed to start at 5. The only problem is that we also have Treplo Ross who's supposed to be coming too.
Yeah. No, I know. Like me and Wack. Actually, I told everybody not to tell you. I was gonna pop up on you.
No. But the only thing is we don't have 5 mics. But I guess we could use the other space. Yeah.
Well, no, I heard it was. Wait, is Vlad gonna be on it? I heard it was me, you, Wack, Traplo.
Yeah. No, yeah, that's what I was planning on, but we'll see if Vlad wants to stick around too.
I can stick around.
Bro, y'all can get 5 mics. What the fuck?
All right, yeah. We'll do it in the other room with 5 mics. Cool.
All right.
I'm on the way.
Gangster. All right. Shout out to everybody who watched this. Like, comment, subscribe. Shout out Vlad TV, DJ Vlad, the legend in the game.
Yeah.
And definitely a Adam and Wack show to remember on the way as well.
All right.
Appreciate you, man.
Yep.